Chapter 1561. Where Hope Lies. Jianchen frowned. He would never have thought that the people from the world of Forsaken Saints would possess such a great background, originating from the Saints' world. Fairy Hao Yu, are the spirit sages in the Saints' world very powerful? Since the world of Forsaken Saints has origins in the Saints' world, why are they invading our Tianyuan continent? With my understanding, the people from the world of Forsaken Saints have been there for an extremely long time. If they are from the Saints' world, then their origin realm experts would have ventured to the other world already. Why do they remain there? Jianchen asked. After a while of silence, Fairy Hao Yu replied, the spirit sages are a great race in the Saints' world and possess great strength, but due to some reasons, many large sects and clans in the Saints' world attacked them, so they suffered heavy losses. Both of their grand prime ancestors fell, but the spirit sages are still a force to be reckoned with. They're definitely not people our moon god Hall can offend. At the same time, the people from the world of Forsaken Saints are only extremely similar to the spirit sages. I'm not certain they're actually part of the spirit sages from the Saints' world. It's just that the spirit sages are far too powerful. As long as there's the slight chance that they are, I'm not willing to take part in the battle. Fairy Hao Yu spoke sternly. She really feared the spirit sages. The moon god Hall could not afford to provoke such a powerful foe. Moreover, even if her moon god Hall did not fear the spirit sages, there was no reason for her to turn on them. She was not from the Tianyuan continent. Even though she had remained there for quite some time, she held no feelings for the continent. There was no difference if humans occupied the Tianyuan continent or the spirit sages did. Fairy Hao Yu, if the people from the world of Forsaken Saints really are a part of the spirit sages, will it become a hidden problem due to my enmity with them? Jianchen asked. Your enmity with the world of Forsaken Saints is like a child making some noise before the spirit sages. After all, they're a great race. So why would they go as far as to fuss over someone who hasn't even reached godhood over some small matters in a lower world? That is, unless a descendant of some important figure dies in your hands. But that basically never happens. And even if it did, the spirit sages can't do anything to you because the war god of the god clan is among you. The god clan is a peak clan in the Saints' world. When they were founded by the war god, they were known as the greatest organization in the Saints' world. Even if the great war god of the past has fallen, forcing the god clan to lose their title as the greatest, they're still not in existence that any large sect or clan can afford to offend. Jianchen knew that persuading Fairy Hao Yu to partake in the battle against the foreign world was no longer possible, so he ended his conversation with her and left. Jianchen, the seal in this world will vanish soon. At that time, the seal leading to the Saints' world will disappear as well. In my current state, it's extremely difficult for me to go to the Saints' world. I'll need your help then. You'll need to take my divine hall to the Saints' world. As long as there is origin energy, I can use a secret technique to rebuild my body in the shortest amount of time possible. Fairy Hao Yu's voice rang out once more. Jianchen paused. He knew that his relationship with Fairy Hao Yu was not full of friendship. They were just partners in a deal at most. Fairy Hao Yu had taken Yu as her disciple because she saw potential in Jianchen. To return the favor, he would have to take Fairy Hao Yu to the Saints' world. Jianchen was obviously willing to agree to such a deal. It was just that the threat of the foreign world still lingered. Even if the seal to the Saints' world vanished, he could not leave at ease because he had too many friends and family here. They had the power to protect themselves on the Tianyuan continent, but they would not be able to preserve their lives once they ventured to the Saints' world. As a result, it was impossible for him to take all his friends and family to the Saints' world. They would remain on the Tianyuan continent. So before he left, he needed to create a safe and lovely environment for them to live in. Fairy Hao Yu, we have known each other for many years, so you should understand me a little. Do you think I can easily leave without completely dealing with the matter of the foreign world? Jianchen inquired. You can take all your friends and family with you to the Saints' world. Once we're there, I'll recover very quickly. At that time, I'll obviously be able to protect your friends and family. And to pay you back, I can open the gate to the God's Necropolis, so that you can enter the God's Necropolis microcosm. If you cultivate in there, you'll quickly reach godhood with your talent, added Fairy Hao Yu. Jianchen gently shook his head. He did not agree to Fairy Hao Yu's suggestion. Jianchen had considered taking all his friends and family with him, but he did not believe they would be safe. After all, the experts in the saints' world were as common as clouds and held all the power. Even if he reached godhood, he would find it difficult to protect the people around him. Moreover, he was born on the Tianyuan continent, was a member of the humans, and was revered as their greatest expert. He carried the hopes of all of the humans on his shoulder. So how could he just leave by himself and abandon them, leaving them to face danger all by themselves? At the same time, Jianchen did not believe that he did not have the power to deal with the foreign world. His strength could skyrocket in a short amount of time by absorbing the Yinyang Saint Rock. The sword spirits had told him that if he absorbed all of the rock's power, he could even reach the 9th layer of his chaotic body. According to the strength he gained each time his chaotic body progressed to a new layer, just his personal strength would reach godhood if he reached the 9th layer, even before factoring in his other powers. The only problem that troubled Jianchen was that he could not absorb the powers of the Yinyang Saint Rock by himself. He required Shangguan Mu'er's support, or he would just be seeking death. After leaving the Bright Moon Divine Hall, Jianchen remained in the City Lord's estate, keeping Yu Yu and Bai Lian company. Jianchen had not allowed them to take part in the battle. They were very important to him. So he would remain pain for the rest of his life if they died in battle. In reality, even if they took part in battle, they would not be any great help. They severely lacked battle experience, and were not as experienced as the saint rulers and saint kings, who had lived for thousands of years. Brother, the foreign world is so powerful, and the divine hall from Mercenary City cannot always remain there. If the spirit king from the foreign world smashes through the divine hall, what'll happen? Bai Lian asked, full of worry. Since her status was special as Jianchen's sister, she knew many secrets. Don't worry. The Supreme Divine Hall from Mercenary City can block the tunnel for a few decades at the very least. At that time, we might not need to fear the foreign world anymore. Jianchen smiled. There was no worry on his face. However, he was mulling over the fact that he probably should talk to Shangguan Mu'er. Sister Bai Lian, you have to be confident in your brother. Your brother's experienced countless storms of blood, and been through an innumerable amount of problems. In the end, weren't they all resolved by him? I believe the threat from the foreign world won't be able to trouble Jianchen for long. Yu Yu sat beside Jianchen and hung onto his arm. Her face was filled with happiness. Chapter 1562. The Spirit King attacks. Jianchen placed his hand around Yu Yu's thin waist. Yu Yu did not resist at all. She leaned her head on Jianchen's shoulder with a smile full of joy. She wore a small pouch of fragrance on her, so Jianchen immediately smelt a faint fragrance. The pouch contained extremely valuable herbs and flowers, and could calm people down. Jianchen immediately felt relaxed, calmer and less restless. Jianchen sucked in a deep breath and said, "Yuer's right. Lianer, don't worry about the world of Forsaken Saints. The Spirit King may be very powerful, but there's still a shred of hope for us. This shred of hope can only become larger after a few years, or even decades. The Supreme Divine Hall from Mercenary City will be able to earn us some of that valuable time." As soon as Jianchen finished speaking, the ground immediately began to shake, as if an earthquake was happening. Not only was the entire City Lord's estate violently shaking, but so was the entire city. An extremely powerful earthquake was happening across the Tianyuan continent. It affected an extremely large range, having originated from the ruins of Mercenary City, over 1,000,000 kilometers away. The epicenter of the earthquake was there, spreading out across the entire shattered continent. Jianchen's face froze. He said, "It's the world of Forsaken Saints attacking the Supreme Divine Hall above the tunnel. I'll head over immediately." Jianchen could no longer afford to accompany Yu Yu and Bai Lian. He immediately stood up and left the city. "Brother, you have to be careful. Jianchen, no matter what happens, you have to come back safely." The two women immediately followed Jianchen out of the building. Their eyes were filled with worry and a reluctance to part with him. Even though the tunnel leading to the world of Forsaken Saints had been blocked by the Supreme Divine Hall, and made it impossible for the people from the other world to cross over, they would worry every time Jianchen left. They worried that accidents would happen. Jianchen left through the space gate that had been set up in Flame City to go to the ruins of Mercenary City. It was much faster than flying over 1,000,000 kilometers for him. When Jianchen arrived, a deafening rumble constantly reverberated around. The Supreme Divine Hall, which was blocking the tunnel, was gently shaking while extremely violent streams of energy leaked out from below it. Within the streams of energy were strands of extremely sharp sword qi, causing space to shatter and collapse. Everything was turned to nothingness due to its destructive powers. The Supreme Divine Hall had stood like a mountain earlier. It had not moved even after taking on a full-powered attack from Ouyang Yangwen. Yang Lai, Feng Xiaotian, Guihai Dao, and the Sea Goddess had all been absent at that time, while all the Origin Realm experts who had been supporting the Divine Hall were heavily injured. However, Ouyang Yangwen was still unable to force the Supreme Divine Hall to move. Yet now, all the Origin Realm experts of the Tianyuan continent had recovered their strength, and Yang Lai, Guihai Dao, Feng Xiaotian, and the Sea Goddess were present. Yet, under these circumstances, the Divine Hall still shook. This all pointed to the fact that the Divine Hall was being attacked by an extremely terrifying expert. The Spirit King. Jianchen immediately thought of who was attacking the Divine Hall. Aside from the Spirit King, who had also comprehended the way of the sword and surpassed Jianchen's own comprehension, there was no one else. The current Spirit King was like a god in the world of Forsaken Saints. He had created a legend. Even Ouyang Yangwen and Xiongzhong, who were almost at reciprocity, deeply feared him. They would obediently follow any order from the Spirit King, and would never question them. At the same time, the Spirit King was like a huge mountain that weighed on Jianchen's heart, almost suffocating him. This was because he had heard the rumors regarding the Spirit King from the other people of the foreign world. Not only had the Spirit King reached mid-reciprocity, but his battle prowess was also at the level of godhood experts. He was a legendary figure. His talent was so great that it was almost unprecedented. He was the greatest genius in all of the foreign world's history, as well as the most powerful Spirit King. In just a few centuries, he had gone from a nameless figure to the supreme sovereign of the foreign world. With a single movement, Jianchen entered the Divine Hall. The atmosphere inside was extremely stern. All the Origin Realm experts were present and channeling their origin energy into the Jade White Seat. They worked together with many saint rulers, saint kings, and saint emperors to push the Divine Hall to its limits, so that they could guard the entrance and block the path of the foreigners. Jianchen made his way over to the Jade White Seat and gently placed his hand on it. His chaotic force surged into the seat without any restraints at all. Since Jianchen's chaotic force was special, the shaking Divine Hall gradually calmed down. However, the deafening booms continued to ring from the blocked tunnel. As the Divine Hall gradually stabilized, the great expert from the foreign world also seemed to understand that he was unable to smash through the Divine Hall. He stopped attacking, and the great booms suddenly stopped. Everyone fell silent within the Supreme Divine Hall. After seeing how they were not going to be attacked again, they all let out a breath of relief and pulled back their hands. However, every single one of them was extremely stern. That should have been the Spirit King of the foreign world. He really is strong. Just his attacks alone required all of us to work together. It's fortunate that he didn't take part in the battle earlier, or we would not have been his opponent even if we worked together. We would not have been able to injure him, Feng Xiaotian said grimly as he frowned. These attacks have already surpassed reciprocity. Only experts at godhood can stop the Spirit King. If we want to use the Divine Hall to stop attacks from experts at godhood, the origin energy we need will increase by several-fold. We do have the mortal energy fruit, but they will only last us a few decades at most. If the Spirit King continuously attacks the Divine Hall, we'll last an even shorter amount of time. We might finish off all the fruit in just a few years, Yang Lai said in a solemn voice. In such a short time frame, it's impossible for any of us to break through to godhood. Continuing to remain defensive won't work, said Changyang Mingyue. Her face was filled with worry. After a moment of hesitation, she gritted her teeth and said, I'll go back and find Protector Shui to see if she has any methods of making me break through to godhood in the shortest time possible. With that, Changyang Mingyue left the Divine Hall and traveled to the Ice Goddess Hall with lightning-like speed. Jianchen stared at Changyang Mingyue's back as she grew further away. He was probably the only person who knew Protector Shui's true strength. As a supreme god king who even managed to kill the greatest god king of the god race, she definitely would have valuable heavenly resources on her. He was extremely willing to have Changyang Mingyue break through to godhood. Protector Shui may not interfere with the matters of this world, but my sister is clearly valuable to Protector Shui. If Protector Shui assists my sister and increases her strength, that shouldn't count as interfering, Jianchen thought. He then looked at Shangguan Mu'er. After a while of hesitation, he walked over and said, Mu'er, there's something I want to discuss with you. Shangguan Mu'er's face was neutral. She only slowly hesitated before nodding in the end. She left the Divine Hall with Jianchen. 1,000 kilometers away, Jianchen and Shangguan Mu'er stood above the clouds, like a match made in heaven. Mu'er, everyone understands the strength of the foreign world and the Spirit King extremely well. Even if we don't include the Spirit King in the picture, just Ouying Yangwen is hard enough to be deal with. In a few decades, when we use up all of the mortal energy fruits, what will we use to stop the next attack? My sister may have gone to find Protector Shui, but I don't think her chances of success will be great. As a result, the only way for us to achieve victory lies with us. Jianchen looked at Shangguan Mu'er as he spoke in a stern voice. Chapter 1563. Protector Shui injured Shangguan Mu'er wore a purple dress. Her indescribably beautiful face seemed like it was not something that could appear among the realm of mortals. She looked like a goddess from heaven. Her eyes were cold, but they were spirited as well, shining with an enchanting light. Just her gaze could mesmerize people. The heavenly enchantress fell silent after listening to Jianchen and did not reply for quite some time. Mixed feelings filled her eyes. She felt like she was torn between some decisions. She obviously knew what Jianchen's intentions were. In the current world, no one could become powerful enough to fend off the Spirit King within a few dozen years by cultivating a side form Changyang Mingyue. Let alone reaching godhood. Even just the slightest improvement would be extremely difficult, because there was no origin energy in this world. They would no longer grow as rapidly after reaching the origin realm. Currently, the only method for them to rapidly strengthen themselves was the Yin-Yang Saint Rock. Shangguan Mu'er was very reluctant to bring up the rock. She had never forgotten what had happened in the past. The rock had been a fortuitous encounter for her, but it had also hurt her. Will you be able to deal with the Spirit King if you absorb the Yin-Yang Saint Rock? Shangguan Mu'er finally replied after thinking for a while. Her voice was rather forced. She still felt conflicted about the matter of the Yin-Yang Saint Rock at the bottom of her heart. But after so many years, even Xiaobao had become an adult. She had gradually let go of these matters and come to terms with them. Not to mention the fact that the Tianyuan continent currently faced a disastrous future. In just a few decades, all the lives in this world might end up threatened or wiped out. She needed to make this decision for Xiaobao. Jianchen sucked in a deep breath and slowly replied. The Yin-Yang Saint Rock is condensed from the Yin and Yang Qi of the world. They are extremely powerful energies far greater than we can imagine. They're far more terrifying than any energy we've ever seen before. If we blow up the Yin-Yang Saint Rock, the entire universe would probably be destroyed. It is exactly because of how powerful the Yin-Yang Saint Rock is that I can only absorb it after I have reached the 5th layer of the chaotic body. And I still require the balancing of Yin and Yang, so that the Supreme Yin force and Supreme Yang force within the Yin and Yang Qi become gentle. Otherwise, it would cost me my life. At our current strength, we can reach reciprocity at the minimum if we absorb the entire rock, or we could break through the origin realm and reach godhood. However, with my battle prowess, there's no need for me to reach godhood. I just need to reach reciprocity. Even if it's early reciprocity, we would not need to fear the Spirit King. Jianchen's face was filled with confidence. He knew that the Spirit King was also an expert who could kill people at greater levels of cultivation, but he was confident that he would be no weaker than the Spirit King. Not only did he cultivate chaotic force, but he was also a Class 9 Radiant Saint Master. Once the battle began, the rate at which he consumed chaotic force would be several dozen times, or even 100 times slower than his enemy's energy consumption. However, the drawback was that it took him 100 times longer to recover chaotic force. He also possessed martial soul force, an ability that could attack the souls of his opponents. Although he did not know of a way to use martial soul force to its fullest extent, his soul would still rapidly strengthen as his power increased, so the power of martial soul force would increase as well. Even though he would not be able to injure opponents at the same level, he was still able to distract them. Hesitation filled Shangguan face. She was conflicted inside. She knew that this was probably the only way she could protect Xiaobao, but she was just unable to voice her agreement and go to the Yinyang Saint Rock with Jianchen to practice the dual cultivation together. Give me 3 days to think about it. I will get back to you in 3 days. Shangguan did not immediately agree after hesitating for a while. Although she had dropped the matter in the past and had gradually accepted it, her feelings for Jianchen were not anywhere near Yu Yu's or Huang Wan's level. Jianchen looked at Shangguan with mixed feelings. He said, "So far, that's the only idea I can think of that we can use to fend off the foreign world. I will wait for your reply in 3 days." With a flash of violet light, the Ziying sword appeared beneath Jianchen's feet. After he had spoke, he left, disappearing in the horizon as a streak of violet light. Shangguan slowly sat down. She sat above the sea of clouds. Great gusts of wind buffeted her hair, causing it to wave in the wind. Her face was hesitant. There was a huge world of ice to the far north of the Tianyuan continent. It was separated from the continent and the sea realm by a thick layer of cold air. The battle on the Tianyuan continent had been extremely intense. The terrifying shockwaves of battle had destroyed the entire continent, while the Beast God continent, the Wasteland continent, and the Sea Realm were also heavily affected. Even though the icy tundra was not far from the Tianyuan continent, it had not suffered any damage at all. It looked no different than before. Shrouded by a wall of thick, and in the depths of the icy tundra within the white mist was a majestic divine hall. The entire divine hall seemed to have been carved from crystal, refracting sunlight into rainbows. In a secret room within the divine hall, the armored protector Shui sat in the air. An extremely powerful presence radiated from her body, as terrifying pulses of energy permeated the entire room. The energy was so powerful that the entire world would be destroyed if a tiny amount of it leaked out. Protector Shui seemed like a god of war, radiating with an absolute pressure. She seemed indomitable. Before her, even the powerful Spirit King seemed as insignificant as an ant, let alone Jianshen. They would not even be able to endure her presence. Protector Shui's hands constantly danced from one seal to another, as she tried to decipher who the mysterious expert, who had almost caused the formation to collapse, was. She needed to determine who they were and work out whether they were a friend or foe, because this was directly tied to the safety of the snow goddess. Suddenly, Protector Shui's body violently trembled as she suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood. She did not stop after one mouthful. She continued to vomit over a dozen times before stopping. She fell out of the air in a horrible condition. She lay on the floor and was extremely weak, having been heavily injured. Who is this person? They're so powerful. I didn't even try to see who they were directly. I just tried to use some traces to work out whether they're a friend or foe. Yet not only have I failed, but I've also suffered such a great backlash. Protector Shui involuntarily cried out. Chapter 1564. Worlds apart, Protector Shui was ranked on the God King's throne, and had easily killed the strongest God King from the great God race. Yet she had completely lost her usual calm. Her icy cold eyes were filled with shock. Under her helmet, her face was filled with shock and disbelief. With my current strength, I could probably find the identities of infinite primes. I may not be able to learn the identities of chaotic primes, but I'd still be able to catch some traces, and draw a conclusion from them. I tried to find out who that mysterious expert was and only wanted to approach their identity slowly through a few small traces. But in the end, I failed and I suffered such a powerful backlash. The mysterious expert's strength is far greater than what I imagined. It must be a grand prime, Protector Shui said with a trembling voice. She slowly stood up and waved her hand, opening the door of ice. She walked out with a heavy heart. She thought, this place has been discovered. We cannot stay here any longer. We must leave immediately. Or if that mysterious Grand Prime is an enemy, Her Majesty will be in danger. I don't mind dying, but Her Majesty cannot die. Protector Shui recovered her composure. Her eyes glowed with a sharp light. There was a sliver of uncontainable seriousness in her eyes. If the great ice goddess was present, it would be no big deal if a hostile Grand Prime discovered them. The ice goddess would obviously interfere. However, the ice goddess was still heavily injured and had entered a slumber in the ice goddess hall. She was unable to help the snow goddess. And at the same time, there had been a rebellion in the ice goddess hall as well. So even the ice goddess herself was in danger. Protector Shui, Protector Shui. At this moment, Changyang Mingyue's voice appeared in the hall. She was looking for Protector Shui and had charged in. Protector Shui was supporting herself with the ice walls. A glow of weakness had filled her eyes. The specks of blood on her snow-white armor were extremely eye-catching and a surprising sight. Changyang Mingyue saw the blood on Protector Shui from very far away. She was immediately surprised and flew over as a blur. She said, Protector Shui, what's happened to you? Changyang Mingyue was completely shocked inside. She did not know Protector Shui's precise strength, but she knew that Protector Shui was very powerful. Even at returnance, Protector Shui gave her an unfathomable feeling. Yet right now Protector Shui had actually been injured. The thought that there was someone powerful enough to injure Protector Shui in this world was just unimaginable. Protector Shui shook her head and said, Your Majesty, I am fine. I only suffered from a backlash. Changyang Mingyue let out a breath of relief. Fortunately, Protector Shui had not been injured by someone, or their strength would just be too terrifying. Protector Shui, do you have any method that can allow me to reach godhood in a short amount of time? The Spirit King from the world of Forsaken Saints is just too powerful. Only godhood experts can stand their ground against him. Changyang Mingyue directly stated her intentions. After spending such a long period of time with Protector Shui, she basically understood Protector Shui's quirks. Everything that Protector Shui did would be for her. Aside from a few things that were morally wrong, Protector Shui basically listened and abided by her words. Your Majesty, a Grand Prime from the world of Forsaken Saints has discovered our world. I failed to find out whether they're a friend or foe. For your safety, we must immediately leave together. Once you reach the Saints' world, you will be able to break through to godhood in the shortest amount of time possible. Protector Shui weakly said. What? You're going to take me and leave immediately? Changyang Mingyue was stunned. She suddenly sensed an ill omen. Yes, Your Majesty. For your safety, we have to leave immediately. We need to leave right now. Every moment we stay here will amount to more danger. Protector Shui replied. No, I won't leave. This is my home. Protector Shui, without my permission, you can't take me away from my home. Changyang Mingyue loudly cried out. As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and ran. She understood Protector Shui extremely well. On ordinary days, Protector Shui would show her great respect and listen to her regarding all matters, acting like an attendant. However, once she was in danger, Protector Shui would never listen to her. Bang! With a heavy sound, the doors of the Divine Hall slammed shut before Changyang Mingyue could make it out. Protector Shui moved very fast. The moment the doors closed, Changyang Mingyue felt like the hall was ascending. The Ice Goddess Hall had left the icy tundra it had occupied for over 3 million years and rose into the sky at an unbelievable speed. Protector Shui, let me out. Let me out. My parents are still here. My younger brother is still here. I forbid you from taking me away, or I will never forgive you in the future. Changyang Mingyue frantically screamed as she constantly struck the door. Each attack from her possessed great power, causing the door to ring with heavy thuds. However, the Ice Goddess Hall was extremely tough. It could easily endure the presence of a God King's. So Changyang Mingyue was not even able to leave a mark on its surface, let alone get through the doors. Protector Shui, Changyang Mingyue shrieked. Her beautiful eyes were filled with resentment. She then turned around and lunged at Protector Shui, biting and clawing, attacking with everything she could. Panic filled her face. If she were to be taken to the Saint's world by Protector Shui, she would probably never see her parents again. Perhaps even her eldest, youngest brother, and olive relative might end up dead, due to the world of Forsaken Saints. Changyang Mingyue furiously roared as she kicked and scratched Protector Shui. She attacked Protector Shui mercilessly with her returnant's powers, but they failed to injure Protector Shui at all despite being enough to devastate the world. Protector Shui did not even shake. Protector Shui's armor easily blocked Changyang Mingyue's full-powered attacks. If it was any other returnant's expert, Protector Shui would have reduced them to nothing long ago. However, not only did Protector Shui avoid attacking Changyang Mingyue, but she even endured them without making a single sound. Protector Shui was extremely firm with her decision to leave. She did this out of consideration for Changyang Mingyue's safety. As long as she could safely flee with Changyang Mingyue, she would not mind being resented. She firmly believed that Changyang Mingyue would forgive her once she recovered her memories as the Snow Goddess. So no matter how poorly Changyang Mingyue reacted, Protector Shui did not waver at all. The Ice Goddess Hall reached outer space in an extremely short amount of time. At the same time, there was a deafening boom. The vast formation cast in outer space shattered at that moment as well. It erupted with extremely terrifying shockwaves of energy, which wreaked havoc in the surroundings, causing space to shatter and sunlight to vanish. The entire world darkened. The formation had been cast down by Protector Shui with the secret help from the great Ice Goddess from the distant Saint's world. Not only could it hide the world from the laws of the universe, making it impossible for anyone in a higher realm to find out where the Snow Goddess was, but it also prevent the people on the planet of the Tianyuan continent from reaching the origin realm. It also sealed up the tunnel to the Saint's world, preventing people of this world from leaking information about the Ice Goddess Hall after they went to the Saint's world. At this moment, the formation shattered by itself with the Ice Goddess Hall's departure. Not only did the people of this world regain the ability of breaking through to the origin realm now that the formation was gone, but the tunnel to the Saint's world had reopened as well. The disturbance from the destruction of the formation was incredible. The origin realm experts on the Tianyuan continent immediately discovered the change, while even Saint Emperors and Saint Kings could sense the eruption of indescribably powerful energy in the depths of space. As the formation caused space to shatter, the Tianyuan continent plunged into darkness. Countless people on the continent were alarmed, causing a great commotion. All the experts in the Supreme Divine Hall sensed what happened first. They all raised their heads as shock filled their faces. In the middle of the region of shattered space, there was a divine hall that seemed even smaller than a finger. It was shining with dazzling light, as if flew toward the depths of the universe. "It's the Ice Goddess Hall," Jianchen cried out. His facial expression suddenly changed. He immediately expanded his soul toward the Arctic. When his soul enveloped the Arctic tundra, he found that the icy mist in the depths had vanished as well as the Ice Goddess Hall. At the same time, a huge black hole suddenly appeared deep in outer space. The Ice Goddess Hall seemed as insignificant as an ant before the dark hole, but the Divine Hall sped up when it appeared. The Divine Hall disappeared into the hole as a stream of light. Jianchen's face became extremely sunken. The collapse of the formation in outer space and the Ice Goddess Hall's disappearance into the dark hole indicated that the Ice Goddess Hall had left. The dark hole was likely the tunnel leading to the higher world. Jianchen obviously would not have cared if the Ice Goddess Hall had disappeared. However, his sister Changyang Mingyue was in the Divine Hall as well. Its departure also meant that his sister had been taken away. Sister? Jianchen seemed to have become petrified. He stared blankly at the huge black hole that was slowly vanishing. He was filled with sorrow and reluctance. He had never thought that this would be the last time he would get to see Changyang Mingyue. He had no idea how long it would be before the two of them could see each other again. They might not even end up seeing each other in the future. Jianchen was very dejected. Ming Dong had been taken away, and now had Changyang Mingyue. They had all gone to the saint's world. He had no idea whether there would be a chance to see them again. However, he could not leave right now. He needed to remain and stop the world of forsaken saints, so that the people of this world would remain safe from their tyranny. Chapter 1565. Revenge. Jianchen was dejected. On the other hand, Yang Lai, Guihai Dao, and Feng Xiaotian were ecstatic. Now that the seal was gone, there was nothing stopping them from breaking through to the origin realm. Although the origin energy in the world had not been replenished yet, that was not a problem for the three of them. When they had entered an endless cycle of rebirth in the past, they had stored origin energy in their saint artifacts. Aside from them, no one could use the origin energy within the saint artifacts, including saint emperors from the 10 protector clans. If they used the origin energy they had stored up, they could quickly reach the origin realm. Aside from them, the many saint emperors from the 4 races were extremely excited as well. Now that the seal was gone, they all saw the path to the origin realm. Even though there was no origin energy in the world, they believed that reaching the origin realm through the energy of the world was not impossible. At the very least, they found a glimmer of hope to a higher realm, and didn't have to remain saint emperors for the rest of their lives, and end up passing away from old age. There was a vast expanse of land in the forbidden grounds of the city lord's estate in Flame City. It was always dead silent. The prosperity and noise of the city were unable to overcome the silence. Even the guards that patrolled the estate would avoid the forbidden grounds. As a result, it seemed to have become a whole different realm compared to the outside world. A pure white divine hall stood in the forbidden grounds. It let out a faint, silver light that appeared like the glow of the moon. Fairy Hao Yu's figure sat on a jade bed within the divine hall. The moment the powerful formation in outer space shattered, her eyes suddenly opened. She gazed through the obstructions of the divine hall, and could see everything happening in the outside world. She really has left and much earlier than I anticipated. The tunnel to the saint's world has been opened. I can leave as well. Once I reach the saint's world, I'll be able to recover my body with a secret technique. Fairy Hao Yu murmured to herself. A gleam of light flashed through her eyes. She was eager to leave. She had been trapped on this lower world for a very long time. She was extremely eager to return to the saint's world and tell her father about Nan Potion's scheme. That was what she thought. But Fairy Hao Yu did not take action immediately. She murmured, "In my current state, it would be extremely difficult to return all by myself. I'd have to pay a huge price to pass through the tunnel, and I might even lose the ability to keep myself safe. If I can't even do that, I'll probably die during the journey back to the Moon God Hall. I've waited tens of thousands of years already, so it's fine if I wait a few more decades. Jianchen won't stick around for much longer. I'll spend a few decades waiting for him. If he dies to the hands of the people who seem like spirit sages, I'll just ask them to cooperate with me." Fairy Hao Yu did not treat Jianchen's life with much importance. She had accepted Yu Yu as her disciple because of Jianchen, and had even interfered and saved Jianchen when he had been trapped in the miniature world of the protector Changyang clan. She didn't want Jianchen to die then, since she could use him to reach the higher world in the future. Fairy Hao Yu did not treat the protector clans with any importance, which was why she helped Jianchen break out without any hesitation. To her it was simply effortless work. However, she was extremely fearful of the Forsaken Saint race, which was extremely likely to be a part of the spirit sages in the saints' world. She dared not to offend them. Her relationship with Jianchen was not particularly deep. They were not even friends. They were just cooperating with one another. Outer space gradually settled down, and the tunnel leading to the world of Forsaken Saints closed very quickly as well. The Ice Goddess Hall had left the world through that tunnel. The mysterious organization had ceased to exist on the Tianyuan continent. However, when the tunnel was about to close, 2 figures suddenly shot out of the death nest. They charged away from the Tianyuan continent like loose arrows, headed toward the tunnel. A gleam of light immediately flashed through Jian Chen's eyes when he saw the two figures. He immediately dismissed his other thoughts and coldly said, "It's Kaiser and the Tiger Emperor form the Beast God continent. It looks like the two of them actually want to go to the Saints' world. It's time for your revenge, Xiaobai." The white tiger had reverted to his beast form. His eyes shone with a vicious light as he gave off a heavy killing intent. Coupled with a deafening roar, he immediately disappeared with a single leap. When he reappeared, he was in outer space, extremely far from the continent. He just happened to appear before Kaiser and Lankiros. Compared to the past, the two of them looked dispirited. They had lost their dignified appearances. When they saw the white tiger suddenly block them, their faces drastically changed. Without any hesitation, the two of them separated. They wanted to make their way around the white tiger and enter the tunnel. The white tiger had reached the origin realm, so the two of them gave up on the notion of putting up a fight. They chose to flee without any hesitation at all. However, how could the white tiger let them enter the tunnel? With a deep and furious growl, the wings on his back gently shook as two strands of force of slaughter shot out. The strands pursued the two of them as blades. Spurt! Spurt! The blades condensed from the force of slaughter, mercilessly beheaded the two of them. They had become Saint Emperors many years ago, and had been two great rulers who had reigned supreme in certain regions. Yet they were unable to fight the white tiger. They were as puny as ants. The white tiger sealed up their heads, sealing in their souls. He took their heads back with him to the Beast God Hall. His mother, Rum Guinness, was still in there. He wanted to deal with the two Saint Emperors while his mother watched. Kaiser and the Tiger Emperor had schemed against the white tiger several times in the past, attempting to possess his body and obtain his bloodline, so that they could venture to the 99th floor of the Beast God Hall for the Beast God's legacy. The death of the white tiger's father was also secretly orchestrated by them, and even Rum Guinness had almost died. All these matters had stoked the flames between the white tiger and the two Saint Emperors. Even though the threat of the foreign world loomed heavy, where everyone from the four races had put aside their differences and were working together to fend off the world of forsaken saints, the white tiger was still unwilling to let the two of them escape. Chapter 1566. The final ray of hope. No one sympathized with the two former rulers from the Beast God continent, nor did anyone plead for them. Even the Saint Emperor from the Peng clan, Songqiong, stood to one side as he silently watched the show unfold. He sighed inside. The seals completely vanished. I can no longer feel that pressure in the depths of my soul. We can break through now. Gui Haidao was overjoyed and spoke excitedly. He had become quite eager. It's just a pity that that girl Changyang Mingyue left with the Ice Goddess Hall. I may not have known her for very long, but I know that she's definitely not someone who flees in the face of danger. She must have been forced to leave along with the Ice Goddess Hall, taken away by that protector Shui against her will. Now that we've lost a returnance expert, it will be even more difficult to use the Divine Hall to block the tunnel when the Spirit King attacks. So we need to break through as soon as possible. However, to prevent anything from happening to the Divine Hall while we are gone, only two of us can break through at the same time at most. Yang Lai said rather eagerly as well. If it had not been for the sealing formation before, the three of them would have broken through to the origin realm long ago. Great-grandfather, the three of you should go break through. There's enough of us in the Divine Hall. As long as we don't run out of energy, the Spirit King won't be able to move the Divine Hall, Jian Chen said to the three of them. Jian Chen's right. Yang Lai, Gui Haidao, you two go break through first. Maintaining the Divine Hall requires even more origin realm experts. I'll stay here for now, and we'll go break through once the two of you are done, said Feng Xiaotian. Yang Lai and Gui Haidao hesitated before leaving. They left for an unknown place through a space gate. They did not choose to go into seclusion within the Divine Hall even though it was extremely safe. But if the Divine Hall was attacked by experts from the foreign world, they would definitely find it hard to cultivate. While the tunnel to the Saints' world gradually vanished, the space that had shattered when the formation was destroyed slowly healed up as well. Rays of light reappeared, illuminating the entire world once again, returning it to daytime. Jianchun, Shengguanmu'er, the sea goddess, Tianjian, and the others, including various saint kings and saint emperors, all returned to the divine hall. They all made preparations to offer their energy to the divine hall at any moment. They had lost a returnance expert since Changyang Mingyue had departed. So many sainthood experts became heavy-hearted. Even though Feng Xiaotian, Guidai Dao, and Yang Lai would be able to reach the origin realm once again, they would not be able to make up for the loss of a returnance expert, since they would only reach receival once they broke through. Even if the three of them worked together, they would never be the opponent of a returnance expert, as long as they remained ordinary receival experts. For a time, a heavy and suffocating atmosphere filled the entire divine hall. Many sainthood experts even began to experience despair. They believed that the next few decades would be the rest of their lives. Once the divine hall could no longer be supported, their doomsday, as well as the world's doomsday, would come. If it were not for the fact that there were still a few origin realm experts present, a few weak-willed people probably would have began to struggle for their lives out of desperation. They would commit unexpected actions while those overwhelmed by despair would lose their rationality. Of course, not everyone was weak-willed, but there were definitely people who would succumb to terror. At the same time, there were a few people who mentioned the idea of fleeing to the saints' world. After all, the seal was gone now, so the upper world was no longer inaccessible like in the past. However, what Feng Xiaotian said made them give up on that thought. He said, "If you haven't reached the origin realm, it's impossible for you to pass through the tunnel between the two worlds. The moment you enter it, you will be crushed into oblivion by the pressure. You'll suffer a death far more miserable than dying to the hands of the foreigners. Brother, that powerful sister has left. What do we do now?" Inside the divine hall, Xiaoling helplessly looked at Jianchun. Her gaze was uneasy and fearful. She was still an immature girl. She could sense the heavy atmosphere, which ended up affecting her. "Sister, don't be scared. There's nothing to fear. It's just dying at most," Xiao Jin said apathetically. He only seemed to be 3 or 4 years old, and was less than a meter tall. Yet he was currently comforting Xiaoling, who was much older than him. This scene was rather hilarious. Jianchun rubbed Xiaoling's head and smiled. "Don't worry, Xiaoling, believe in me. I have an idea." "Okay, I believe in you." Xiaoling seemed to have settled down after seeing how confident Jianchun was. She firmly nodded while her gaze became determined. However, only Xiaoling would believe in such a thing. Tianjian, the sea goddess, Feng Xiaotian, and so on did not believe a single word. They grimly frowned. Jianchun glanced at Shengguanmu'er and sighed inside. Originally, Changyang Mingyue had been a ray of hope that could to deal with this threat. But with her departure, the hope was lost as well. Now the final ray of hope lay with Shengguanmu'er and him. Shengguanmu'er's face became rather unnatural when she sensed Jianchun's gaze. The light in her eyes flickered uneasily, but in the end, she seemed to make up her mind. She said to Jianchun through a communication technique, "Let's do it." Shengguanmu'er also understood the situation at hand. She could have continued to place her hope on Changyang Mingyue earlier, but she knew now that both her father and her son's life rested with her decision. Jianchun immediately became relieved. He replied, "All right, let's go to Dragon Island once my great-grandfather reaches the origin realm successfully." Shengguanmu'er and Jianchun spoke to each other through communication techniques, so no one present could hear what they had agreed to do. Yang Lai, Guihai Dao, and Feng Xiaotian had all been origin realm experts before, so their breakthrough could only be described as smooth. In just 2 short days, all 3 of them reached the origin realm. However, they were only at early receival. They needed to absorb origin energy and slowly cultivate their way back to their former levels. Now that the divine hall had gained 3 true origin realm experts, Jianchun and Shengguanmu'er could finally leave without any worries. Very soon, everyone heard of their departure. The 2 of them had gone to find a way to completely eliminate the threat of the foreign world. When they returned in a few years or several decades, the foreign world would no longer be able to shake up the Tianyuan continent. Many people refused to believe this news, but with the current circumstances, They had no choice but to believe in them, because this was their final ray of hope lay. Chapter 1567. Unexpected encounter on Dragon Island. Jian Chun and Shangguan Mu'er arrived on the outskirts of Dragon Island once again. During ancient times, the Yinyang Saint Rock had fallen on Dragon Island from outer space. It was then moved into the depths of the endless cosmos through Mo Tianyun's great abilities. Thus it was extremely far away. Jian Chun was unable to sense where it was even with his current strength. If he had to fly to it from the Tianyuan continent, it would take him several decades, or even a century at full speed. As a result, there was only one convenient path to the Yinyang Saint Rock. That path was through the formation on the island, which Mo Tianyun created long ago. The formation could teleport people to the Yinyang Saint Rock, and was the only shortcut around. Jian Chun and Shangguan Mu'er both sighed in amazement when they revisited Dragon Island. They saw that the landscape of the island had not changed at all. When they had first come to the island, they had to move carefully in order to avoid the mindless living corpses that moved around on the island, or they would have ended up dead after a single mistake. But now, the many living corpses that roamed the island no longer posed a threat to them. Even some of the few, powerful dragon souls in the depths of the island were as puny as insects to them. There's still quite a few heavenly resources on the island. Their age is shockingly great. But it's a pity that they're all low grade, so they're useless to us. Let's go to the Linestrum pit, and go to where the Yinyang Saint Rock is, Jian Chun said to Shangguan Mu'er. Shangguan Mu'er had removed her veil, revealing her indescribable beauty. She silently traveled beside Jian Chun while carrying her simple-looking zither. She silently nodded to what Jian Chun had said while some mixed feelings appeared in her eyes. Just as Jian Chun was about to move to the Linestrum pit, his facial expression suddenly changed. He produced a gentle interjection of surprise, before immediately changing direction. He had originally started moving toward the Linestrum pit, but now he was making his way into the depths of the island. A strange light filled Shangguan Mu'er's eyes as well. She followed behind Jian Chun, and flew toward the depths of the island as well. There were formations 10 meters above Dragon Island. These formations were so powerful that they posed a threat to Saint Emperors. They also contained terrifying killing formations. So when a person who was not a part of the dragon clan surpassed the 10-meter threshold, the formations would immediately rip open and devour them like a pair of jaws. However, these formations could not do anything to Origin Realm experts. Jian Chun and Shangguan Mu'er ignored the formations in the air, as they shot toward the center of the island with lightning-like speed. As the two of them moved, the surrounding space violently shook, forming spatial cracks. Dragon Island was very large, but with their speed, they crossed half of it in just a short moment. They arrived at the center of the island. There was a 10-meter-wide golden door in the sky. Illusory dragon souls would fly out from it from time to time, and wander mindlessly around the depths of the island. Jian Chun was familiar with this place. The dragon clan found the land sacred, a necropolis built within a miniature world. Jian Chun and Shangguan Mu'er erased their presences and stood at the entrance. They did not go in. It was the dragon clan's most sacred region, where all the dragons that had passed away had been buried. It was blasphemy for an outsider to enter. Huge, illusory dragons wandered around the miniature world. However, at this moment, even though Jian Chun and Shangguan Mu'er stood right at the doorway, the souls failed to sense their existences at all. Even when some of the dragon souls brushed past them, they felt nothing. It appeared like the two of them did not exist in the eyes of the dragon souls at all. Seniors Rui Jin, Heiyu, and Hong Lian are actually cultivating inside, Jian Chun softly murmured. He had not seen them since he had been forcefully separated from them at the Ice Goddess Hall. He had not found their presences, even when his soul had enveloped the territories of the four races. He had accidentally come across them by visiting the island today. So much time has already passed. Many people on the Tianyuan continent have become Saint Emperors, including Saint Kings who had once been weaker than them. Yet, the three of them still remain at the great perfection of Saint King, Shangguan Mu'er gently said while standing beside Jian Chun. She glanced at Jian Chun, as if she was blaming him. There were many people on the Tianyuan continent that Jianchen was not familiar with, yet he had magnanimously used violet cloud peaches and comprehension tea leaves on them, helping them become saint emperors. However, Ruijin, Honglian, and Heiyu had assisted Jianchen countless times. He relied on them the most any time he needed to hold his ground against the protector clans, but they still remained at the great perfection of Saint King, and had not become saint emperors. So Shangguan Mu'er found their situations to be rather awful. Sigh. I should have realized that the 3 seniors would have come here to cultivate. I should have come and looked here long ago, but the world of forsaken saints has made me push this matter back. I could never find the time. Jianchen was riddled with guilt when he sensed that the 3 of them still remained at the great perfection of Saint King. The 3 of them had shown him great kindness, so great that he would probably never be able to completely return the favor. Jianchen's heart ached when he thought about how many weak Saint Kings had already broken through to Saint Emperor several years ago. Yet the 3 of them still devoted themselves to breaking through to Saint Emperor. He found it unacceptable. It might be a good thing that the 3 seniors did not break through beforehand. At the very least, they did not have to take part in the battle against the foreign world. They do have the armor and legacy treasures that possess origin energy, but they're still unable to stand their ground against origin realm experts, said Shangguan Mu'er. The fact that the 3 of them had spent all these years in seclusion might have been a blessing. If they had broken through and had taken part in the battle against the foreign world, they would not be the opponents of receival experts or returnance experts, even with their origin energy armor. Something's off. The 3 seniors still remain at the great perfection of Saint King, but their presences are no weaker than a Saint Emperor. They are even more powerful than the presence of regular Saint Emperors. Jianchen's eyes narrowed. He stared into the depths of the necropolis. Although he was unable to see them due to all the visual obstructions, he could clearly sense their presences. They're using a greater cultivation method. It's far surpassed Saint Tier. Jianchen was shocked. Saint Tier battle skills and cultivation methods were the highest quality in this world. If a battle skill or cultivation method surpassed the Saint Tier, it would no longer belong to this world. It would have originated from a higher world. Has the ancient winged tiger god appeared again? Who else would help them aside from him? And seniors Ruijin, Honglian, and Heiyu's armors and weapons all came from the winged tiger god as well. The 3 of them had been trapped in the Ice Goddess Hall in the past. When I visited the Ice Goddess Hall again, Protector Shui said that the 3 of them had been saved already. Is the mysterious expert who saved them the winged tiger god? Did he give the 3 of them even better cultivation methods when he saved them? Jianchen furrowed his brows in thought, but any conclusion he came up with was only a guess. There was no actual evidence to support his thoughts. Ruijin, Honglian, and Heiyu's cultivation had reached a crucial period. They would soon become Saint Emperors. They would be far more powerful than regular Saint Emperors when they did break through. So Jianchen did not disturb them. Instead, he took out 3 space rings while standing outside the miniature world. Each space ring contained a 5th grade violet cloud peach and comprehension tea leaf, as well as water from the springs of life. Jianchen also left behind a stone tablet. He had engraved the method of consuming the heavenly resources on the stone tablet. After preparing all that, he gently guided the 3 space rings into the miniature world, placing them silently next to his cultivating seniors. As soon as they roused from cultivation, they would discover the space rings. Chapter 1568. The evil power Jianchen and Shangguan Mu'er left the entryway after leaving behind the space rings. They made their way to the Linistron Pit. The Linistron Pit was an extremely deep ditch on Dragon Island. The ditch was created when the Inyang Saint Rock crashed into the island, and the odd phenomena that started appearing on Dragon Island was due to the rock. Many living corpses had appeared, and then the winged tiger god disappeared from the world, along with the dragon and phoenix clans. Jianchen and Shangguan Mu'er arrived inside the pit filled with stardust. Stardust was a material for forging the twin swords into immortal artifacts. It was one of the best materials on the Tianyuan continent, but it was basically worth nothing in the saint's world. Mo Tianyan had created the formations at the bottom of the pit. The formations led to the location of the rock. Fortunately, the sword spirits knew this formation, so Jian Chen and Shengguan Mu'er passed through it by following the instructions of the sword spirits. They followed a specific pattern and location for entry. When they took their 8th step, the landscape around them suddenly changed. They had left the pit and appeared in the dark, cold reaches of outer space. Stars glimmered all around them as far as they could see. The planet the Tianyuan continent lay on was hidden among all the stars. Jian Chen and Shengguan Mu'er crossed an unimaginably great distance by taking that final step. They had appeared in a location so far away from the Tianyuan continent that even they were not certain where they were. Although the two of them had experienced this in the past, they were still shocked, and their shock was even greater than the first time. The two of them were only saint rulers when they experienced this the first time they came. Both their knowledge and insight was extremely limited when they first teleported. They thought that one could cast formations that could transport people across such distances just by surpassing Saint Emperor. Yet only after becoming Origin Realm experts did they gain an even deeper understanding of how complex the formation was. They could move as they wished through outer space, but they were limited to a certain distance. They would not find it problematic to visit a nearby moon. But if they wanted to come to this distant planet, they would end up lost in the sea of stars, and that was not taking into account the amount of time they needed to devote to traveling. They would not be able to find their way back if it were not for the formation beneath them. Follow my steps. Don't take a single wrong step. If you're off by a slight amount, you'll become lost, Jian Chen sternly said to Shengguan Mu'er through a communication technique. Even he refused to be careless at that moment. He listened to the sword spirits. Shengguan Mu'er nodded slightly. She understood why she needed to be careful. She obediently stood behind Jian Chen, unwilling to take a single wrong step. With the assistance of the sword spirits, every step taken by Jian Chen and Shengguan Mu'er happened to land on a crucial point in space. With each step, the tremendous sea of stars around them would change. This was due to the fact that they were traversing great distances with each step. However, when they took their 30th step, their surroundings suddenly changed. With a closer look, one would realize the two of them were actually in a tunnel that was 10 meters wide. Beyond the tunnel was chaotic, making it impossible to see anything. Every process was the same as when they had first visited this place. Jian Chen and Shengguan Mu'er passed through the tunnel and successfully arrived near the Yinyang Saint Rock. They appeared in a hazy, gray space that lacked any signs of life. The entire world was dead silent. There had been nothing here originally, but when Mo Tianyan moved the rock here, the yin and yang qi that leaked out of the rock changed the laws of the world. Yin and yang qi was responsible for creating everything in the universe, so it gradually formed a dead world. Jian Chen felt relief after entering the world of the Yinyang Saint Rock. The two of them made their way to where the rock lay with ease. The place the rock rested was above a conical ditch. The rock hovered above the deepest part of the ditch. The rock let out a radiant white and black light, completely obscuring its surface. But Jian Chen was still able to see the rock hidden within the light. The Yinyang Saint Rock was not big. It only seemed to be the size of a fist. The fist was both black and white. However, a terrifying energy was hidden inside. Enough to startle Jian Chen. If the energy inside the rock erupted, it would destroy the entire universe. At the same time, Jian Chen could clearly see the specks of red light that flickered in the rock. They seemed to glimmer with life. Jian Chen had no idea what the red light was, but the moment he saw them, all the hair on his body stood on end. A certain coldness uncontrollably penetrated his body, all the way down to his bones. Even his heart began to beat a heavy beat at that moment. He was not the only one who experienced this. Even Shengguan Mu'er revealed a different expression. Her eyes were fixated on the rock. She felt the same way as Jian Chen. Is this the evil energy hidden within the Yinyang Saint Rock? Jian Chen stared at the light that shot into the sky as well as the specks of red light inside the rock. He was extremely shocked. Jian Chen had experienced such intense feelings after just a single glance. The terror of the evil power had greatly exceeded anything Jianshan could imagine. What an evil power! Once this power breaks free, it will lead to a destructive disaster. Looks like this is the disaster of the world. It can't be stopped by people. Only the primordial god Silk will work. The illusory figures of the sword spirits appeared as they sternly stared at the rock. Suddenly, their faces changed as they both cried out, "Oh no, the evil power inside is actually absorbing the yin and yang qi. It's only becoming stronger. We have to find a way to stop it, or once it reaches a certain state, even the primordial god Silk won't be able to stop it. But the evil power is hidden within the rock, and we can't touch the rock either. If the balance between yin and yang is lost, we'll probably face disaster even without the evil power fully maturing." Jianshan frowned. "We can only fight on behalf of the yin and yang qi now. Master, you can't waste any time. Immediately start absorbing the yin and yang qi. Absorb as much of it as you can. We cannot let the evil power continue growing," Qing Suo said with a heavy voice. Chapter 1569. The Spirit King enters seclusion, while Shangguan Moor and Jianshan entered tunnel to the Yinyang Saint Rock, with the hopes of the four races on the Tianyuan continent. The Spirit King, who was the source of all their despair, currently stood on the top of the world mountains. He stared at the tunnel, which constantly distorted. The Spirit King possessed an extremely ordinary appearance. His hair was casually draped across his shoulders, and both his appearance and attire seemed extremely normal. He did not go to any great lengths to dress himself. If he were to be thrown into a crowd, no one would notice him. Perhaps the only impressionable feature about the Spirit King was the extraordinary determination and iron will present on his face. However, beneath his ordinary appearance was supreme strength and a terrifying prestige that caused all Origin Realm experts of the world of Forsaken Saints to tremble. Even Xiongzhong and Ouyang Yangwen dared not to disobey him. The Spirit King currently stood with his arms across. He nonchalantly stared at the tunnel before him as a light flickered through his deep, dark eyes from time to time. His gaze was ordinary at times and sharp at others, but when his eyes were sharp, they seemed like heavenly swords with pressing presences. Even reciprocity experts at the same cultivation level as the Spirit King would feel extremely shocked. A dark, metal sword hovered beside the Spirit King. The sword was forged from an unknown material, so its dark surface made it seem extremely simple and inconspicuous. It was nothing like shiny treasured swords. However, the sword was able to hover there by itself without the support of any power. Its tip pointed toward the ground as it remained there. Ouyang Yangwen and the other protectors and elders stood behind the Spirit King. They all held their breath and stood silently, afraid to breathe too loudly. Both the Receival protectors and Returnance elders seemed to have lost all their prestige as Origin Realm experts at that moment. They seemed like completely different people compared to the confidence and grandeur they exhibited on the Tianyuan continent. A few people were now missing among the elders and protectors. They had died on the Tianyuan continent. Many of them were pale-faced and haggard as well, as if they were sick. Many of their robes still contained traces of blood, clearly still injured from the wounds they had received on the Tianyuan continent. I never thought that the Tianyuan continent would possess such a powerful divine hall. It really is a supreme treasure, no worse than our 3 supreme treasures. Even I cannot damage it at all. The Tianyuan continent really is complicated. We've actually underestimated their power time and time again. They're actually able to produce so many Receival and Returnance experts while lacking Origin energy, which really is surprising, Ouyang Yangwen said slowly. His voice was heavy and deep. It did not seem to contain any signs of emotions at all. The elders all stood silently behind him. They understood the Spirit King tone. They knew that he seemed calm right now, but he had actually been truly angered. This was all because they had lost a Returnance expert during the battle. Aside from the elder, they had even lost a few Receival experts. The world of Forsaken Saints suffered heavy losses during their invasion of the Tianyuan continent. Although they still had 7 elders and over 20 protectors, The losses this time really did take a heavy toll on the Tianyuan continent. Is that Jian Shun from the Tianyuan continent really this powerful? Where even two mid-returnants elders can't handle him? The Spirit King spoke once again. His voice was deep like before while his eyes remained fixed on the tunnel before him. In the past, he had crossed through the tunnel with the Cloudstream sword and fought above the Tianyuan continent in outer space. Jian Shun had also revealed his abilities from the way of the sword then, but he was nowhere as powerful at that time. Although a few decades had already passed since then, more than enough for prodigies to make great progress in cultivation, the Tianyuan continent lacked origin energy. In such an environment, no matter how talented a prodigy was, it would be extremely difficult to reach the origin realm, let alone make any major breakthroughs. Spirit King, Jian Shun is indeed powerful. Elder Bai and I were unable to kill him together when he was heavily injured. We only managed to keep him suppressed. At the same time, his recovery rate is extremely shocking. No matter how heavily injured he is, he could recover in an extremely short amount of time. An old man stepped forward and spoke. A gleam of light flickered through Ouyang Yangwen's eyes. After a moment of hesitation, he said with mixed feelings, "Spirit King, there's one more thing that I must say." Ouyang Yangwen also felt extremely unsettled when he decided to speak. He did not know how the Spirit King would react once he told him that. "Speak." The Spirit King's voice was no different than before. Ouyang Yangwen sucked in a deep breath and slowly said, "Jian Chen's strength has surpassed mid-returnants, where even some late returnants experts aren't his opponent, but his true strength has not reached the origin realm. Jian Chen is actually a Saint Emperor." Many protectors and elders immediately revealed drastically different expressions. Their faces were filled with disbelief. How is this possible? The difference between sainthood and the origin realm is an untraversable chasm. It's no exaggeration to describe them as heaven and earth. Jian Chun may have comprehended the way of the sword and is able to make up for this gap. But he can't be so impressive where he can fight late returnants experts as a Saint Emperor. He's only an inch away from being able to fend off reciprocity experts. A protector immediately cried out, having forgotten that the Spirit King was present. Jian Chun comprehended the way of the sword, the power of laws, so fighting against receival experts was not that surprising. However, they were unable to accept the fact that he was able to erupt with the battle prowess equivalent to late returnants as a Saint Emperor. Even the Spirit King did not possess such battle prowess in the past. Ouyang Yangwen nervously looked at the Spirit King. He was arrogant and condensing on the Tianyuan continent, but before the Spirit King, he was riddled with fear. Ouyang Yangwen was taken aback. The Spirit King remained very calm and composed, as if the unbelievable piece of news did not make the Spirit King waver at all. Jian Shun, the Spirit King murmured gently. Ever since he had fought against Jian Shun, the name became deeply engraved in his mind. This was not the first time he had muttered the name under his breath. It was also at this moment that the Spirit King's gaze became extremely deep. He stared at the distorting tunnel before him and sank into a long period of silence. The protectors and elders of the foreign world all stood there silently. None of them dared to disturb the Spirit King's train of thought. After quite a while, the Spirit King slowly turned around. He made his way down the mountain and said, "I'm going into seclusion in an attempt to break through beyond the origin realm. Do not disturb me during this period of time, unless there's something extremely important. The matters of the Sacred Spirit Hall will continue as usual, and will be carried out by the 7 elders. Ouyang Yangwei, you've remained at late returnants for many years now, so break through to reciprocity as soon as possible. Once I emerge from seclusion, I will take our people, the Spirit Sages, and charge out of here." All the elders and protectors immediately became shocked by what the Spirit King had said. This time, the Spirit King actually wanted to leave the origin realm. Would that mean the legendary godhood? Godhood had always been a legend in the world of Forsaken Saints. No one had ever reached that level of cultivation throughout history, because no one had ever managed to comprehend laws, and laws were the key to godhood. People would remain stuck at the origin realm for all of their eternity if they did not grasp any laws, making it impossible for them to reach godhood. Chapter 1570. 3 years in a flash. The Origin Realm experts remained despite the Spirit King's departure. Many of them were confused. That's strange. Why would the great Spirit King announce that he's going into secluded cultivation at such a time? The entrance to the Tianyuan continent may be blocked by a powerful divine hall, but they won't be able to last for very long with their strength. If the Spirit King constantly attacks the divine hall, with his battle prowess equivalent to a godhood expert, the divine hall will quickly run out of energy. Without the divine hall, the people from the Tianyuan continent won't be able to stop the elders and protectors with their strength. A protector said out of confusion. His eyes were filled with uncontainable respect as he gazed in the direction the Spirit King had disappeared in. The Spirit King obviously has his reasons for not doing that, and we all saw what happened when the Spirit King attacked the divine hall. At the very start, the Spirit King was able to shake the divine hall, but near the end, the divine hall gradually stabilized and did not move even after the Spirit King's full-powered attack. We can conclude from that the divine hall's power definitely increased. It would be quite difficult even for the Spirit King to waste away all of its energy, and if the people on the Tianyuan continent ingest recovery heavenly resources, they'll be able to last even longer, possibly even several centuries. After all, their world's just far too unusual. They have many Origin Realm exerts despite lacking Origin energy. That's basically impossible, so the world's far more complicated than we imagined it to be. Why waste so much time meaninglessly attacking a divine hall, when you can devote this time to cultivation? The Spirit King might actually be able to reach the legendary godhood with his talent. At that time, wouldn't it be a piece of cake for the Spirit King to smash through the divine hall? Said another protector. However, when he mentioned the Spirit King, his voice became filled with reverence. There's something else. If the people on the Tianyuan continent use the divine hall to flee into outer space or enter the saint's world, we wouldn't be able to obtain the divine hall. If the Spirit King reaches godhood, then the people from the other world won't be able to escape, even if they want to. Even if they hide in the depths of outer space, the Spirit King will still be able to find them. Legend has it that only godhood experts can wander outer space and avoid becoming lost. Many protectors agreed with what was being said. Godhood experts had never appeared in the world of Forsaken Saints, and the Spirit King was still in between mid-reciprocity and late reciprocity. Logically speaking, it was impossible for someone to traverse such a great gap and reach godhood. But the current Spirit King possessed unprecedented talent. Not only had he reached his current level of cultivation in a little over 800 years, allowing him to become the only ruler in the world of Forsaken Saints, but he had even comprehended laws, disproving the rumor that no one could comprehend laws in the world of Forsaken Saints. Others may not have been able to do it, but that did not mean the Spirit King could not do it. All the elders and protectors were extremely certain that if the Spirit King devoted himself to secluded cultivation, he would be able to reach godhood soon. Ouyang Yangwen walked over. His glance passed the protectors with a sunken face and coldly said, "Do not doubt the Spirit King's judgment. He's always right. I need to enter seclusion as well and reach reciprocity as soon as possible. While I am in seclusion, you must enter the tunnel and attack the divine hall at all times. Even if you can't damage it, you'll waste away its energy. We can't let the people from the other world have it easy. Our protectors and elders can't die in vain." "Yes, Grand Elder." The protectors all responded together. In a world where strength was supreme, Ouyang Yangwen was the greatest aside from the Spirit King. The protectors would never disobey Ouyang Yangwen. The other elders were not as powerful as Ouyang Yangwen, but since they were also elders and at returnants, they did not fear him. Ouyang Yangwen was unable to order them around either. Ouyang Yangwen glanced at the injured Xiongzhong. A gleam of cold light flickered through his eyes as he left. Xiongzhong had always been his rival, and the elders were split in two factions as well. One of the factions was led by Ouyang Yangwen, while the other was led by Xiongzhong. The elder that had been killed by Jian Chun belonged to Ouyang Yangwen's side. Ouyang Yangwen's actually going to attempt to break through. He's already slightly more powerful than me. So if he does break through, I'll be less of an opponent to him if I remain at late returnants. I have to enter seclusion as well and break through as soon as possible, Xiongzhong thought before leaving as well. He also entered seclusion. In the blink of an eye, 3 years passed. During that time, the Spirit King, Ouyang Yongwen, and Xiongzhong had all remained in seclusion. Receival protectors were stationed on the peak of the world mountains, and elders would come and check on the situation from time to time. During those 3 years, the protectors had been split into 5 groups. The groups would cooperate with a few elders and attack the Divine Hall on the Tianyuan continent. Their attacks failed to make the tunnel collapse at all. The tunnel remained stable at all times. But the tunnel was not stable enough to endure the shockwaves of battle between returnants experts and reciprocity experts were still unable to enter it. A few changes had happened on the Tianyuan continent as well. These changes mainly happened with the 4 huge cracks that spanned the continent. Each crack was several dozen kilometers wide and was bottomless. They had become 4 raging rivers now, forming quite an obstruction to many experts who had not become Heaven Saint Masters. Transportation over water and air was set up to cross the 4 raging rivers. They were crucial to many weaker fighters who needed to traverse the rivers. Huge ships were present everywhere along the rivers as well. There were also many flying magical beasts who flew quickly through the air. Several or even several dozen fighters would be present on each magical beast's back. Most of the magical beasts were raised by a few organizations and were valuable tools of transport between the 2 banks of the river. They were expensive to use and could not be afforded by regular people. The Supreme Divine Hall continued to block the entrance to the tunnel. The ruins of Mercenary City were nearby and were also the center of the great battle that had occurred in the past. So the Divine Hall stood where the 4 rivers intersected. However, powerful pulses of energy and a terrifying pressure permeated the surrounding 100 kilometers around the tunnel. They pushed the water away, so the cracks were empty there. The surrounding 1,000 kilometers was labeled a forbidden zone as well. Only sainthood experts could enter the forbidden zone. Heavy booms constantly rang out from the Supreme Divine Hall over the past 3 years, going on for days on end. They were audible several thousand kilometers away, and sometimes could be heard tens of thousand kilometers away. The people in the surroundings had grown accustomed to the sound, so they no longer found it strange. Chapter 1571. New Patriarch of the Changyang Clan. 1. The Divine Hall above the tunnel was split into 2 sections. The interior section was the most central part of the Divine Hall. Only Tianjian, who controlled the Divine Hall, and the Origin Realm experts of the 4 races could enter this section. The exterior section was where all the sainthood experts remained. All the saint rulers, saint kings, and saint emperors gathered there, channeling all their energy into the Supreme Divine Hall. They worked with the Origin Realm experts to support the Divine Hall. During those 3 years, the sainthood experts were split into 4 groups, who would each take turns. Each group was composed of a single race. The sainthood experts of the same race were required to maintain the Divine Hall for 10 days, and during those days, they would channel 90% of all the saint force they had into the Divine Hall. The groups would change after those 10 days, and the depleted group would have a month to replenish their saint force. This cycle remained unchanged during those 3 years. The sainthood experts of the 4 races had increased after the battle 3 years ago. No additional saint emperors had appeared, but quite a few saint kings and saint rulers appeared, especially saint rulers. Each race had gained over 100 of them across the 3 short years, 500 overall. Many experts from the 4 races seemed to realize that breaking through to sainthood had become easier than 3 years ago. However, this advantage only helped Heaven Saint Masters when they broke through to Saint Ruler, and was no longer as obvious to higher cultivation realms. Going from Saint King to Saint Emperor remained as difficult as before. This was why the number of Saint Emperors had not increased among the 4 races in 3 years. Tianjian sat on the white jade seat in the interior region of the Supreme Divine Hall. He channeled everyone's power into the formations through the seat, maintaining the Divine Hall's suppression. Yanglai, Guihai Dao Feng Xiaotian, the sea goddess, Houston Xiaojin, Xiaoling, and the winged tiger god in human form all gathered around Tianjian. Aside from Tai Ta, Jian Chun, and the heavenly enchantress, all the origin realm experts in the world were present. The sainthood experts took 10-day shifts for the past 3 years, but the origin realm experts were unable to enjoy such a vacation. Throughout those 3 years, all of them remained within the divine hall, not taking a single step away. Even when they ran out of origin energy, they would recover it all by ingesting Jian Chen's mortal energy fruit. They needed to be prepared for when the Spirit King attacked the divine hall. Jian Chen, Tai Ta, and Shangguan Mu'er were not present, so if the Spirit King suddenly attacked them, they had to devote everything they had to maintaining the divine hall, and, with the support from the sainthood experts, stop him. As a result, not a single origin realm expert could leave, or the divine hall would run out of power, and the Spirit King would be able to blast the divine hall away. The world of Forsaken Saints was so strong that even when Tai Ta, Jian Chen, Shangguan Mu'er, and Changyang Mingyue had been present, they had not been their opponents. Not to mention the fact that Changyang Mingyue had gone to the Saints' world, and that Jian Chen and Shangguan Mu'er had left the Tianyuan continent. If their front lines collapsed, what was waiting them was a hellish disaster. They could not afford to be careless. Over the past 3 years, the foreign world has never stopped attacking the Divine Hall. Although the attacks have weakened, they still exhaust the Divine Hall's power. If they continue like this, we can only defend the continent for 100 years at most, and I believe that the attacks from them will gradually become stronger. At that time, will last an even shorter amount of time. The sea goddess frowned. Just maintaining the divine hall in front of the tunnel was expending too much energy. So coupled with the constant attacks from the origin realm experts from the foreign world, the divine hall's power was rapidly being consumed. We should feel fortunate about how the Spirit King has not continued to attack the divine hall. When he attacked 3 years ago, we only managed to stabilize the divine hall with every sainthood expert, as well as Tai Ta, Jian Chen, and Shangguan Mu'er. Now that they're no longer here, it'll be extremely difficult for us to stop any attacks from the Spirit King. If he constantly attacks the divine hall, we will probably only last for a decade or less, said Yang Lai. His eyes became filled with fear as soon as he mentioned the Spirit King. The Spirit King's strength exceeded Yang Lai, Guihai Dao, and Feng Xiaoyan's power when they were in their prime. After all, they were only origin realm experts when they roamed the saints' world in the past. The Spirit King possessed battle prowess equivalent to godhood experts. Tai Ta has gone to where Irjin's has been sealed. When he returns, his strength will definitely have increased. We can all feel that the world is undergoing some minute changes as well. Though we can't put them in words. There's still no origin energy. But it has clearly become much easier for Heaven Saint Masters to break through to Saint Ruler. I believe that in a few years' time, breaking through to Saint King will become much easier as well, and might even affect the breakthrough to Saint Emperor. Feng Xiaotian smiled. The changes to the world were a blessing to them, because the 4 races would become more and more powerful as breakthroughs became easier and easier. Xiaoling thought about what he said. She tilted her head and crisply said, "Do you think that the changes of the world are related to brother?" "It shouldn't be," Feng Xiaotian shook his head. He was a disciple from a large sect in the saints' world. Even though he was just an ordinary disciple, he possessed extraordinary insight. Even godhood experts were unable to make a world change, let alone Jian Chen, who was not even at godhood. This day just happened to be the day when the human sainthood experts had completed their shift in the exterior section of the hall. The people replacing them were sea race experts. In less than 10 minutes, the 2 races completed their switch, and the humans all exited the divine hall. They were exhausted. Some people chose to recover their saint force within the divine hall among the sea race, while others chose to leave. All the people who did choose to leave were people in charge of organizations on the Tianyuan continent. Among them was a dignified, middle-aged man in embroidered robes. He had poured 90% of his saint force into the divine hall during those 10 days, so his face was filled with exhaustion. As he made his way out of the divine hall, he came across many human experts. Whether they were saint rulers or saint kings, they all greeted him with smiles when they saw the middle-aged man. A few saint emperors even made their way over to talk to him. Even though he was only a saint king, he seemed extremely composed before the experts who were far more powerful than him. Even when he spoke to saint emperors, he did not show any special politeness. On the other hand, the saint emperors were extremely polite to him, talking to him with smiles, as if he was a valued guest. Humans were not the only people who behaved respectfully. Even the replacement C-race experts treated the middle-aged man the same way. They were all extremely polite, whether it was a C-race saint kings or a C-race saint emperor. They seemed to be afraid of offending the middle-aged saint king. The middle-aged man stood out among the sainthood experts. The middle-aged man was Jianshen's father, Changyang. As the father of the greatest human expert, Changyang possessed an extraordinary status, even when his strength was nothing before these people. Changyang made his way out of the divine hall among the sainthood experts like a moon moving across the night sky through the stars. He clasped his hands at everyone and bid them farewell. As the human experts left one by one, only Changyang was left with a few other people. Behind Changyang silently stood 5 people. There was the symbol of a flame sewn onto their robes. Everyone was familiar with this symbol, whether they were from the Tianyuan continent, the Beast God continent, the Wasteland continent, or the Sea Realm, because the symbol represented the flame mercenaries. The 5 middle-aged men were not weak either. They were all saint kings, except they had used up 90% of their saint force in the divine hall, so they were rather pale. The 5 saint kings stood behind Changyang like guards. They were emotionless and did not show any intentions of leaving. They would not go unless Changyang left. Changyang hovered in the sky. He looked at the shattered continent below him and gently sighed. "Let's go back to the clan." With that, one of the 5 saint kings immediately stepped forward. He used his abilities as a saint king to rip open space and create a space gate. The 5 of them only entered it after Changyang. The 5 saint kings were the divine guards of the flame from the flame mercenaries. They were a part of the group who had joined the flame mercenaries in Walorant City of the Blue Wind Kingdom. Originally, it would have been impossible for them to even reach Earth Saint Master with their talent. But since they were loyal to the flame mercenaries and Jianshen decided to use large amounts of resources on them. Jianshen waited several decades, used a large amount of effort, and gave them various heavenly resources to them, allowing them to become experts on the continent. He had even bestowed them a name, the Divine Guards of the Flame. There were originally around 50 or 60 people in the Divine Guards of the Flame. They were all saint kings, and formed the greatest strength of the flame mercenaries, and were the protectors of the flame mercenaries. However, they suffered heavy casualties in the battle against the foreign world. Only 20 people emerged alive. Under Bai Lian's orders, 5 of the 20 were stationed at the Changyang clan, to protect the clan as well as to cement the Changyang clan's power and prestige. The divine guards of the flame were all saint kings, but they did not possess the arrogance of one. Not a single one of them forgot who they were. They were guards and never did they forget who allowed them to possess what they had today. Chapter 1572. New Patriarch of the Changyang Clan. 2. Changyang was the patriarch of the Changyang clan, and because of his youngest son, he was famous and had an incredible status on the Tianyuan continent, the Beast God continent, the Sea Realm, and the Wasteland continent. However, the authority he possessed was pitiful compared to his status. The only people he could order around were the earliest people who had joined the Changyang clan, as well as a few heaven saint masters and saint rulers who had joined the clan out of Jianshen's prestige. However, the saint kings had only joined them because they admired Jianshen. They were willing to follow Jianshen's orders with their lives, but they would only at most behave respectfully when Changyang, the patriarch of the clan, was around. The saint rulers and saint kings from the Zhu branch who dwelled in the Forbidden Grounds all possessed shocking levels of seniority. Any single one of them was the great-grandfather of Changyang. He even had to bow to them whenever he saw them as a junior. This force was even more beyond Changyangba's control. As a result, Changyangba's name was renowned as the patriarch of the Changyang clan that was enough to shake the continent. But the power he possessed, particularly in regard to experts at sainthood, was pitifully weak. It was a complete mismatch to his status. It was exactly because of this that Bai Lian had stationed 5 divine guards of the flame at the Changyang clan. They were completely loyal to Changyangba and formed a force that the patriarch of the clan could control. At the same time, they could play the role of striking awe in people. Changyangba returned to the Changyang clan accompanied by the 5 guards. He immediately entered seclusion to recover his lost saint force. The 5 divine guards of the flame were only guards in name, but since they were saint kings, they possessed great statuses in the Changyang clan. Even the direct descendants of the clan showed much respect to the 5 of them, and they all possessed their own small courtyard in the clan. The courtyard stood in the center, north, south, east, and west in the clan, guarding the clan from all directions. In a certain sense, they had become the protectors of the clan. Whenever the patriarch of the Changyang clan ventured out, the 5 guards would follow along. The 5 guards would cultivate in seclusion at other times, and would only appear when the patriarch required them. 3 days later, Changyangba recovered some saint force, and emerged to find Bai Yuntian. When Jianshen and Shangguan Mu'er left the continent 3 years ago, Jianshen had left the saint artifact with Bai Yuntian. Bai Yuntian's strength rapidly increased while cultivating in it, having become a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master. She was like a saint ruler now, possessing a lifespan of 3,000 years. As a result, time was unable to leave a trace on her face. Even though she was already in her 60s, she looked half that age. Changyangba dismissed all the servants in a beautiful garden within the clan, and sat in a jade-white pavilion with Bai Yuntian. The entire pavilion was covered by a barrier. "Husband, what's so important that you want to discuss it with me, and why are you so cautious?" Bai Yuntian's interest was immediately piqued when she saw Changyangba raise a barrier around the pavilion. Changyangba sat on the stone seats and gently sipped his tea. "Not only have the heavenly resources left behind by Xiang'er allowed my strength to increase drastically, but my talent's been completely altered as well, allowing me to reach Saint King in just a few short decades and obtain the hope of becoming a Saint Emperor. At the same time, the world around us is undergoing some changes that none of us understand. The sovereigns in the Divine Hall have said that the changes are making the laws of the world more complete. So not only will our cultivation become much easier, but overcoming bottlenecks will become less difficult as well. And this change will gradually affect Saint Kings and Saint Emperors as time goes on. So with these changes, I want to abdicate my position as patriarch and focus on cultivation. Who do you plan on passing the position to?" Bai Yuntian was unperturbed. Several decades ago, her greatest wish was that Jianshen could inherit the title of patriarch, but that position was nothing in Bai Yuntian's eyes now. Changyangba sighed at the sky. The person most suitable for inheriting the position would definitely be Xiang'er. But even if I ignore whether he is interested in it or not, just his accomplishments are enough that the position no longer interests him. The next most suitable person would be Ahu, but he's severed his emotions and desires, and cut himself away from his family, to cultivate in the Pure Heart Pavilion. There's only Kur left among my 4 sons and daughters. Bai Yuntian nonchalantly smiled. Among your 4 children, Ahu, Mingyue and Xiang'er are all very capable. They all possess their own matters. Only Kur has no accomplishments so far. I don't mind if you pass the title to him. Alright, since even you've said it, I'll get Uncle Chang to announce the matter. In a week's time, Kur will formally inherit the title. Changyangba smiled in content. He did not need to ask anyone else, nor did he have to ask for the opinions of other important members of the clan. The successor of the clan had just been decided by Bai Yuntian and Changyangba. The news that the patriarch of the Changyang clan was about to step down and pass the title onto Changyang could quickly spread. In less than a day, it spread across the Tianyuan continent, the Beast God continent, the Sea Realm, and the Wasteland continent. It was so significant that the 3 great empires on the continent could not compare when they gained a new emperor. This was all because the current Changyang clan was the strongest human experts clan. The current patriarch was Jian Chen's father, and the person who was about to inherit the title was Jian Chen's brother. Because of how Jian Chen was related to them, the ordinary abdication became an extraordinary event on the continent. Among the four races, many saint kings and saint emperors, including some of those in charge of large organizations, had all received Jian Chen's kindness, so as soon as they received news of the abdication, they began preparing great gifts, ready to go to the Changyang clan in 7 days to congratulate Changyang Ku. At the same time, Changyang Ku and his wife were extremely jubilant in a luxurious hall in the clan as well. In a few days, you'll be the patriarch of the Changyang clan. At that time, your name will definitely become renowned across the entire continent. The 3 other races might even learn your name. The speaker was a woman who seemed to be in her 30s. She was rather beautiful, and the way she acted and behaved indicated that she came from a prominent family. There were traces of haughtiness on her face, making it easy to discern that she was a treasured daughter who grew up in a large clan. This woman was Changyang Ku's wife. Her name was Xie Yan, and they had been married for many years now. They had a son as well, who had just turned 20. As the only wife of Changyang Ku, Xie Yan enjoyed an extraordinary status in the clan. She had been gifted a 100,000-year-old heavenly resource to change her constitution, allowing her to morph and gain great talent. So she was a heaven saint master already, despite her young age. Of course, the heavenly resource originated from Jian Chen. Changyang Ku seemed much more mature. He was a middle-aged man in his 30s, possessing the gentleness of a scholar. His strength had reached Saint Ruler because of Jian Chen as well. Changyang Ku was absolutely ecstatic right now. He never thought that his father would pass on the title of patriarch to him. It was something he had never expected. Among Changyang Ba's 4 children, he was the least capable. He probably would have only become an Earth Saint Master if it were not for Jian Chen. He would never have been able to reach Saint Ruler. Even though he had become a Saint Ruler now, he still felt like he was a nobody. His sister and younger brother were just far too dazzling. They had both become Origin Realm experts. Under their radiance, Changyang Ku's achievement of becoming a Saint Ruler seemed insignificant. Not to mention the fact that Saint Rulers no longer hid from the public. Saint Kings appeared regularly, and Saint Emperors were not basically extinct. As a puny Saint Ruler in an age where every sainthood experts had emerged, he seemed even more insignificant. However, his status as patriarch of the Changyang clan was completely different. Was there anyone who did not know about the Changyang clan among the 4 races? Was there anyone? As long as he could become the patriarch, he would possess an extraordinary status, even if he was not very powerful. The status would allow him to truly raise his head in pride. More importantly, he would be able to order the 5 powerful divine guards of the flame as the patriarch of the clan. It was a tremendous honor to be able to control 5 saint kings, who were beyond the 5th heavenly layer. He might even be able to control some forces from the flame mercenaries when the need arose. Changyang Ku had never thought that he would possess so much authority one day. Father, congratulations for being chosen and inheriting the title as patriarch. A handsome young man knelt on the ground as happily congratulated his father. He seemed rather similar to Changyang Ku, and there was uncontainable pride on his face. He was Changyang Ku and Xie Yan's son, Changyang Su. He was Changyang Ku's only child. Currently, no one knew that Shangguan Aojian was Jian Chen's son aside from Shangguan Mu'er, Xiao Qian, Xiao Yu Qin Qin Yu Yu and so on. As a result, Changyang Su had become Changyang Ba's only grandson, so he was obviously spoiled by Changyang Ba. When Changyang Su was young, Changyang Ba used many precious heavenly resources to create medicinal baths for Changyang Su. He used heavenly resources to purify Changyang Su's body, consuming countless 1,000-year-old, countless 10,000-year-old, and several 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. Without any exaggeration, he had basically grown up soaking in medicinal baths. Even Jian Chen did not go through something like this when he was young. As a result, he possessed extremely great potential. His cultivation advanced at a rapid rate. He could also view any battle skills and cultivation methods in the clan. After all, with the clan's current status, there was no need to carefully guard their various battle skills and cultivation method anymore. Changyang-su did not disappoint Changyang-ba. He had become a great saint master at the age of 20. At his age, many people had only just condensed their saint weapons. Even the direct descendants of a few ancient clans did not possess accomplishments like Changyang-su. In his generation, Changyang-su had become the greatest expert both in name and reality. Coupled with his exalted background, he looked down on everyone he saw. Changyang-ku finally showed some pride as he looked at Changyang-su. He admitted that he was the least capable of his siblings, but he believed that he had surpassed his elder and younger brother in terms of the younger generation. Su'er, you must work hard on cultivation. You have to become like your second uncle and make your father proud, Changyang-ku said with a heavy heart. He held very high expectations for his son. Father, my future goal is to surpass my uncle and replace him as the greatest human expert, Changyang-su said ambitiously and conceitedly. Changyang-ku immediately frowned when he heard that Changyang-su wanted to replace Jian-shen. He said sternly, Su'er, it's all because of your uncle that you have reached your current accomplishments at such an age. You have to show some respect to your uncle, all right? Okay, father, I'll respect my uncle, Changyang-su replied with a disapproving tone. He had only seen his legendary uncle a few times when he was younger. Xie Yin glared at Changyang-ku. Why are you so stern? We should be happy that Su'er has the mindset of surpassing his uncle, and we shouldn't scold him for that. Don't you want to see your child stand at the very apex of the continent? A resolute young man strolled through the streets of the city of God. Beside him were two women in white dresses. They seemed to be in their 20s and possessed great beauty. They would attract the attention of many wherever they went, and take people's breaths away. At this moment, the news that Changyang-ku was about to inherit the position as patriarch arrived. Every family heard the news, and it shocked the entire city in the blink of an eye. Changyang-ku? Isn't that my uncle? The young man's face changed when he heard the news. Xiaobao, your grandfather's about to abdicate, and your uncle will take over. With the current fame of the Changyang clan, the ceremony will definitely be extremely grand. There will definitely be many experts who will take part in it on that day. Do you want to go and have a look? One of the women beside him said with a pleasant and beautiful voice. Sister Xiaoqian, Sister Xiaoyu, let's go have a look. He's my uncle after all. I should go and see grandfather and grandmother when my uncle inherits the position, the young man said with some mixed feelings. The young man was Shangguan Aojian. The two women beside him were the two saintesses from Three Saint Island, as well as the disciples of the heavenly enchantress, Xiaoqian and Xiaoyu. Chapter 1573. The sixth layer of the chaotic body. There was a dark sky in a dreary world. There was no sun, no moon, and no stars. The ground was desolate. There were no signs of life as far as the eye could see. The land was filled with a deathly silence. A young man, who seemed to be in his 20s, currently sat in the center of that world. Two swords hovered before him, one shining with an azure light while the other let out a violet light. A roaring flame in the young man's hand gave off a terrifying heat. He was currently refining the two glowing swords. At a closer glance, it was quite obvious that the two swords were covered in a layer of thin cracks. The cracks were extremely dense, spanning the swords like a spider's web. The cracked swords were gradually being repaired by the terrifying flames. Although they were not being repaired at an extremely fast rate, cracks would completely disappear if this continued. The young man was Jian-shen. He had remained there for 3 whole years. Of course, those 3 years were only applicable to the outside world. In that hazy gray world, there was obviously no difference between day and night with the absence of the sun, moon, and stars. It was impossible to sense the flow of time in such an environment because the surroundings never changed. He had no idea how much time had passed whenever he went into secluded cultivation. Over the past 3 years, Jian-shen and Shangguan Mu'er had always been cultivating by absorbing the yin and yang qi from the yin-yang saint rock. Both of their strengths had drastically increased every passing day during those 3 years. Shangguan Mu'er's improvement rate was so fast that she even surpassed Jianshen. Jianshen's chaotic body remained at the 5th layer. Although the amount of energy he had absorbed across the 3 years was not enough for his chaotic body to reach the 6th layer, his chaotic Niden was now full. If he continued, he would break through very soon. Since each layer of the chaotic body required 10 times more than the last, Jianshen's cultivation became more difficult the further he advanced. Jianshen sat there, as he transformed chaotic force into chaotic flames, to repair the twin swords. Even though the fusion of the swords had failed, it had still damaged them, causing the sword spirits to become weak. However, the damage this time was not extremely severe. He just needed to spend some time refining them again, and the cracks would disappear. Jianshen had no idea how much time he had spent repairing the swords in this world that had no sense of time. In the end, he finally fixed all the cracks on the twin swords. Even though the sword spirits were still rather weak, the swords looked the same as when they were first refined. They let out dazzling glows. Jianshen stood up after the swords had been repaired. He stood on the Ziying's sword and shot off into the distance in a single instance as a streak of violet light. In the blink of an eye, Jianshen appeared several dozen kilometers away. A single earthen hut stood there on the dreary ground. It seemed simple, but powerful pulses of energy emanated from it. The earthen hut had been grown from the ground through Shangguan Mu'er's techniques, so it was extremely tough, even though it looked like an ordinary hut. Jianshen stood outside and stared at the hut. His gaze seemed to be able to pass through the walls, and when he saw what was happening inside, a sliver of gentleness appeared in his eyes. Mu'er still hasn't refined the yin and yang qi. Looks like I'll have to wait outside for a while, thought Jianshen. He was used to waiting after the past 3 years. Whenever the two of them absorbed the yin and yang qi, he would always refine the energy extremely quickly because of his chaotic body. However, Shangguan Mu'er always required more time than Jianshen. Whenever they absorbed the yin and yang qi, Shangguan Mu'er would take 10 days, or even half a month, while Jianshen only needed 3 days. However, Jianshen would not dare to absorb the yin and yang qi without Shangguan Mu'er. If he did, it would mean certain death. As a result, Jianshen could only wait patiently, while Shangguan Mu'er refined her energy. At this moment, the door to the earthen hut slowly opened. Shangguan Mu'er appeared at the entrance and slowly walked out. "Mu'er, you've emerged." Jianshen immediately smiled. Shangguan Mu'er sweetly smiled in return. Her smile immediately made the world around her seem dull. Even with Jianshen's mental fortitude, he still could not help but feel stunned. "I've already reached returnance. If this continues, I'll be able to reach reciprocity in a few years' time." Shangguan Mu'er smiled. She was in a cheerful mood. Shangguan Mu'er had completely forgotten about their dispute after 3 years of being together. Her impression of Jianshen had only improved, and she now truly admitted that they were a couple. Shangguan Mu'er's heart was no longer cold, perhaps due to Jianshen's influence or the change in her relationship with her father. She thought through a lot of things and gradually became more outgoing. Although she could not be compared to some other lively women, there would still be a sliver of a smile on her face from time to time. A smile was extremely rare in the past. "My chaotic body is about to break through to the 6th layer as well." Jianshen smiled, before making his way over to where the rock was with Shangguan Mu'er. When Jianshen arrived, he immediately frowned upon seeing the rock. He became stern. He stared at the rock for quite some time before saying, "Oh no, the evil power absorbing yin-yang saint rock has actually sped up." Jianshen's voice was very serious. Shangguan Mu'er became extremely stern as well. Her enchanting eyes were fixated on the red light hidden within the rock, and she sensed that the situation was bad. She knew extremely well just how powerful the rock was. It was small, but the amount of energy it possessed was terrifying, enough to shock any Origin Realm expert. The evil power's growth rate was extremely astonishing, as it absorbed the yin and yang qi from the rock. If this continued, she could not imagine just how powerful the evil energy would be once it broke free. "Jianshen, what are we going to do?" Are we just going to let this evil power continue to strengthen? Sheng Guanmua asked. She was also very solemn. Both her and Jian Chen feared the evil power, because just a single glance at the red light within the rock was enough to make them shiver. They had met many different experts throughout their lives. Jian Chen in particular had even seen God Kings before. However, he had not experienced such an intense feeling even while dealing with God Kings. Jian Chen helplessly shook his head. There's nothing we can do. We can't touch the rock. The evil power's hidden within, so we can only watch as it rapidly strengthens. The only thing we can do is absorb more yin and yang qi, so that our difference in strength with the evil power is reduced. Jian Chen was extremely certain now that the evil power was the source of the disaster of the world. Although he possessed the primordial god silk, which existed to counter the disaster, he had no idea how to use it to stop the disaster. He did not even know how to use it in general. Even the sword spirits were unable to give him an exact answer. The only thing he was certain about was that the power from the primordial god silk would awaken at a crucial moment in time. Jian Chen and Sheng Guanmua dared not waste any time due to the threat of the evil power. They immediately began to absorb the yin and yang qi, using the dual cultivation method to balance it out. It would take them 3 days to absorb it, and after that, they would leave and enter seclusion to refine that energy. Jian Chen's chaotic body was at the cusp of breaking through after 3 years of absorption. After absorbing some more energy, his chaotic body finally broke through to the 6th layer. His body underwent the painful process of reforging itself once again, becoming even more powerful than before. The 6th layer of the chaotic body is equivalent to the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Emperor. Jian Chen silently sensed his strength. With his familiarity of the system used on the Tianyuan continent, he immediately discerned the power of the 6th layer. The 9th heavenly layer of Saint Emperor was nowhere near Sheng Guanmua's power at returnance, but Jian Chen believed that his battle prowess had far exceeded what he had been capable of at the 5th layer. He was only able to achieve a stalemate with Xiong Zhong, while his chaotic body at the 5th layer, where he even sort of lost the upper hand. In the end, he relied on his recovery rate as a Class 9, Radiant Saint Master to emerge victorious. But now that Jian Chen had reached the 6th layer of the chaotic body, he still belonged to the level of Saint Emperors, according to the divisions on the Tianyuan continent, but he believed he was now powerful enough to fight against Ouyang Yangwan. Chapter 1574. Congratulations from everywhere. Jian Chen's chaotic body had reached the 6th layer, but that clearly was still not enough to fend off the world of Forsaken Saints. Jian Chen knew that even though his strength was increasing, it did not mean his enemy's strength was not increasing as well. Moreover, his final opponent was not Ouyang Yangwan, but the Reciprocity Spirit King, who was no weaker than a godhood expert. Godhood, Jian Chen murmured. His eyes glowed brighter. They were filled with eagerness. He knew that it was extremely difficult to make the chaotic body reach a level where he could fight against godhood experts in a lower world. However, there was the Yin-Yang Saint Rock here. With its assistance, reaching godhood was not impossible. He just needed a lot of time. Jian Chen began to wait, and became bored once again. However, he was unwilling to waste any time. Even when he could not absorb the energy from the rock, he would use the time to cultivate, to comprehend the way of the sword, as well as the various sword techniques the sword spirits had passed on to him. Today happened to be the day when Changyang Ba would step down as patriarch and pass the title on to his second son, Changyang Ke. This matter had caused quite the commotion on the Tianyuan continent a few days ago. Basically everyone knew about it. The experts from the 4 races traveled several tens of million kilometers to congratulate the new patriarch of the clan with rich gifts. A few experts had already arrived at the Changyang clan when the sky was just beginning to brighten, before the sun was even visible on the horizon. As time went on, more and more people from the 4 races gathered in the Changyang clan. These people all possessed a certain level of status in their own territories, and there were many Saint Emperors among them. Basically all the Saint Emperors among the 4 races had broken through because of the immortal peaches. As a result, they were all indebted to Jinshin. They would never be able to repay this favor, but they would be able to repay the clan Jinshin came from. This was why so many saint emperors personally turned up to the establishment of the new patriarch. It was all because of Jinshin. Very soon the Changyang clan was full. Since too many people had come, and many of them possessed great statuses, even if the hall in the Changyang clan was enlarged several times, it would not be able to hold so many people. As a result, Changyang Ba moved the ceremony to the main courtyard. There, a saint king who could control earth-attributed saint force raised a stage, and currently, no one stood on the stage. Many saint emperors and authoritative figures of large organizations stood below. Even though Changyang Ba was Jinshin's father, he could not just sit above all those saint emperors and command people before the ceremony had begun. The elven queen from the wasteland continent has arrived with the precious gift of the elves, 100 droplets of dew of life. The master of ceremonies' voice constantly reverberated about, surprising many people every time he spoke. 100 droplets of dew of life. The elven queen sure is extravagant. Droplets of dew of life are the supreme treasure of the elves. It's said that only a single droplet appears every century. Not only can it increase your strength, but each droplet also possesses tremendous life force. Even if you're at death's door, you can be saved with a single droplet of the dew. Moreover, it's said that the dew can change the constitution of people and alter talent. A single droplet of dew of life is a priceless treasure. It's impossible to get a price for it, because only the elves can produce it. The elven queens actually gifted 100 droplets. That's 10,000 years' worth. The dwarven king from the wasteland continent has arrived with a gift of 100,000-year-old heavenly resource and 5 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. Songcheong of the beast god continent has arrived with a gift of 300,000-year-old heavenly resources and 10 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. The patriarch of the tiger clan from the beast god continent has arrived with a gift of 500,000-year-old heavenly resources, 20 10,000-year-old heavenly resources, many thousand-year-old heavenly resources, a single Class 9 monster core, 5 Class 8 monster cores, and a tiger cub from the direct line of descent. The people in the Changyang clan immediately began to discuss with one another as the gifts from the tiger clan patriarch was announced. Many people were amazed. His gifts were worth even more than what Songcheong was giving away. He even gave away a tiger cub from the direct line of descent. That was equivalent to giving his own descendant to the Changyang clan. The patriarch of the tiger clan has his problems. The tiger emperor offended the winged tiger god in the past, and even attempted to kill it. It's said that the tiger emperor is directly responsible for the winged tiger god's father's death. The patriarch is afraid that the winged tiger god will drag the tiger clan into its fury, which is why it's trying to establish good ties with the Changyang clan. He wants to use the Changyang clan to protect his own clansmen. After all, the tiger emperor committed heinous crimes in the past. Even wiping out the entire tiger clan would not be enough of a punishment. A few human saint kings quietly spoke to each other. They looked at the patriarch of the tiger clan sympathetically. The tiger emperor's schemes against the winged tiger god had nothing to do with the tiger clan. However, the tiger emperor was still a part of the clan. He was their ruler, so the tiger clan was dragged into the matter anyway. The punishment for treason among humans would be killing off anyone related to the criminal within 9 generations. The tiger emperor had committed treason against the winged tiger god. So by the tradition of magical beasts, that was enough of a reason to wipe out the entire clan. The tiger emperor was dead now, and the winged tiger god had never shown any intentions of devastating the tiger clan. But the patriarch still felt uneasy. He wanted to establish good ties with the Changyang clan. His entire clan paid dearly in gifts now that the opportunity had opened up to them. He had basically gifted away everything valuable in the clan. The ancestral emperor of the Felicity Empire has arrived with the gift of 3 heaven-tier battle skills, a saint-tier cultivation method, and 3 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. The patriarch of the Tayama clan has arrived with a gift of 5 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. the great elder of the tyrant's blade school, has arrived with a gift. The emissary from the sea goddess hall has arrived with a gift. People from all 4 races had gathered here for the ceremony. Although the sainthood experts from the sea realm were still stuck with their shift in the supreme divine hall, they had sent representatives to congratulate Changyang-ke. The representatives brought rich gifts with them, including countless heavenly resources, battle skills, cultivation methods, and so on. The Changyang clan had obtained an incalculable amount of wealth from this single event. Changyang-ba and Changyang-ke smiled as they received the many guests. As Changyang-ba's only grandson, Changyang-ba had always spoiled Changyang-su, pouring large amounts of effort into his growth. Coupled with his current achievements, Changyang-ba spoiled him even more. Changyang-su followed Changyang-ba around the ceremony this time, and whenever he would converse with guests of exalted status, he would never forget to introduce Changyang-su. Pride would flood his face whenever he mentioned Changyang-su. Changyang-su had become a great saint master at the young age of 20. Even across the entire continent, there was rarely anyone who could match his speed. Coupled with the fact that he was Changyang-ba's grandson, the guests constantly praised him. Many of the guests brought up the matter of engaging their great-granddaughters, who were of similar age to him. Changyang-su was unable to contain his arrogance from all the praise. He maintained a polite appearance before important people, but he looked down on anyone and everyone around his age. He even looked down on a few hermit clans. As for the engagements, Changyang-su never took them to heart. With his great background and talent, his tastes had gone overboard. To him, there were many saint emperors among the people who proposed marriages, but their great-granddaughters were countless generations away from them. Even they themselves had no idea how many great-granddaughters they had. They maybe had a few dozen, or a few hundred. After all, huge extended families were common for people who had lived thousands of years. However, he was the only son of the Changyang clan patriarch now. How were any of the plentiful female descendants of large clans worthy of him? Moreover, the saint emperors had all broken through because of his uncle. Is he my grandfather? The person beside him should be my uncle Changyang-ke. Is that young man beside grandfather my younger brother, Changyang-su? In the crowd, Shangguan Aojin spotted Changyang-ba, Changyang-ke, and Changyang-su from afar. He mumbled to himself in a voice that only he could hear. Shangguan Aojin had come to Lore City during his journeys in the past, and had heard many matters regarding his father. However, he had never personally seen his grandfather or grandmother. That's right. Xiaobao, he's your grandfather Changyang-ba. However, we've only heard things about your uncle from time to time. We've never seen him before. After all, he's maintained too low of a profile. Xiao Qian smiled while standing beside Shangguan Aojin. Xiaobao, do you want to go and tell your grandfather who you are? Look at the son of your uncle. He's only just a great saint master. Yet your grandfather adores him so much. If your grandfather found out he had such an impressive grandchild, he would probably be absolutely ecstatic, Xiao Yu said from one side as well. She spoke through a communication technique, since she did not wish other people to overhear her. Shangguan Aojin shook his head. Father's not here, nor is mother. If I say that I'm Jian Chen's son in a situation like this, do you think anyone will believe me? Also, outsiders don't know about the relationship between my father and mother. I even suspect that my grandfather and grandmother don't know about their relationship. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu frowned. One of them said with some hesitance, "You're right. If you go and tell them who you are, not only will no one believe you, but people will laugh and jeer at you." Chapter 1575. Brothers meet. There was a group of young men, who seemed to be in their 20s, suspiciously huddled together near Shangguan Aojin. They all wore luxurious robes, and were staring at Shangguan Aojin's group of 3. However, their gazes remained fixated on Xiao Qian, or Xiao Yu most of the time. Surprise filled their faces while infatuation flooded their eyes. Hua Fanyan Lu Qing Zhou Xiaohua Ala Duogong, you see those 2 women? They're rare beauties. I never thought that I'd see such good stuff today, coming to the Changyang clan with my great-grandfather. A young man whispered. He wore azure robes and appeared elegant and handsome. However, he also seemed slightly frivolous. The gaze he sent toward Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu was filled with infatuation. Of course I see them. Speaking of which, I've played with many beauties as I've grown up, and many of them aren't any worse than the two women there. However, those treasured daughters of large clans seem to lack something compared to those two women, and ever since I caught a glance of the two of them, I suddenly feel like all the women I played around with in the past are nothing special. Zhou Xiaohua snapped open his fan. He stared at Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu, catching a glimpse of them from time to time through the crowd. You idiot, it's because those two women possess an otherworldly beauty. They look like goddesses and possess a sacred appearance. Even though the women you played around with were beauties, they did not have that bearing, Lu Qing said while standing beside Zhou Xiaohua. The young men gathered together were all descendants from large clans or organizations. If they were not from the imperial family of the three great empires, then they were from ancient clans. They possessed extraordinary statuses. And who's that young man? What does he belong to? He really does make me envious, having two beauties following him around. If I could be served by two women like that, I'd be willing to give up my position as a candidate as the next emperor, said Hua Fanyan. The gaze he sent toward Shangguan Aojian was filled with envy, as well as some uncontainable jealousy. Ala Duogong's gaze was fixated on Xiao Qian, and Xiao Yu as well. He was basically salivating over them. His drool was almost leaking out of his mouth. He had also played with many women in the past, but he had never seen anyone with bearing like them. The women he had played around were nothing special compared to the two women before him. I have to find a way to take the two of them away with me. Ala Duogong rubbed his hands. He liked Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu more and more as he stared at them for longer and longer. He wanted to take them for himself. Moreover, he was confident that he had the ability to take them away. He came from an ancient clan, and his ancestor was one of the few saint emperors on the continent. Hua Fanyan smacked Ala Duogong's head and told him off. Duogong, why don't you have a look at where you are? This is the Changyang clan, not your Ala clan. They'll never belong to us. Let's go find our man Su and tell him about them. His father's about to become the patriarch of the Changyang clan. He's the only son of the patriarch, so he'll become the young master of the clan. He'll become the patriarch sooner or later as well. Let's use this time to consolidate our relationship with him. He'll be able to assist us when we take power. Hua Fanyan took out a piece of white jade from his space ring and immediately crushed it. Hua Fanyan had known Changyang Su for many years now. As a member of an empire's imperial family, he was adept at forming groups so that he could consolidate his status and expand his influence. He had become acquainted with Changyang Su, and it didn't matter how much it had cost him a few years ago, but it would help him become a viable candidate as the crown prince. After some purposefully orchestrated events, he finally established ties with Changyang Su. Although Changyang Su had never treated him with any importance despite being a part of the imperial family, Hua Fanyan did not mind. He maintained the appearance of a yes-man before Changyang Su. To him, as long as he could cling on to Changyang Su, he might even gain enough power to compete for the position of crown prince and emerge victorious. Changyang Su was currently beside Changyang Ba, constantly greeting the representatives from various large organizations. Changyang Su appeared extremely obedient before the older people, constantly bowing to them and politely greeting them. At this moment, Changyang Su's face changed. He could sense that his piece of jade in his space ring had been shattered. He had given Hua Fanyan the other piece of jade that was entangled with it. Hua Fanyan had always followed him around the past few years, basically abiding by everything he said, gradually allowing the arrogant Changyang Su to admit Hua Fanyan's existence. Changyang Su had gifted him a piece of jade, so that he could use to contact him when important matters arose. Changyang Su approved of Hua Fanyan following him, but he never treated him as a friend. Most of the time, Hua Fanyan was just a follower in his eyes. What does Hua Fanyan want at a time like this? Changyang Su was curious, but he clearly could not leave. Finally noon approached. The ceremony was about to start. Changyang Ba and Changyang Ku appeared on the platform, while Chang Yong-su finally had the time to go see Hua Fanyan and the others. Hua Fanyan immediately dismissed his dignified appearance as a member of an imperial family when he saw Chang Yong-su. He went up to greet him with a face full of smiles, telling Chang Yong-su about the two beauties he had seen in great detail in an attempt to curry up to Chang Yong-su. Even the other young men around Hua Fanyan had erased their arrogance. They also surrounded Chang Yong-su and added to the conversation, as if Chang Yong-su had become their master at that moment. Chang Yong-su stood there emotionlessly. His sharp eyes would sweep across his surroundings from time to time, as if he could not be bothered. After listening to them describe the women, he asked with some suspicion, "Are the two women you speak of really that pretty?" Chang Yong-su did not waver due to what they said. He had seen many alluring beauties, especially in recent years. Countless large organizations had come to propose marriages, and all of the women were great beauties. But he always looked down on them, because he believed none of them were worthy of him. Although they were all beautiful, he believed that it was only a matter of waving his hand if he wanted a woman like them, and a great group of people would obediently arrive at his doorstep. "I'm completely certain. If you don't believe us, we'll take you over to have a look. You definitely won't be disappointed. Only divine women like that are worthy of you." The young men immediately took Chang Yong-su with them through the crowd, headed to Shangguan Aojian's location. All the guests who were in the way would smile and nod when they saw Chang Yong-su. They would then give way extremely obediently. Very soon, Chang Yong-su found Shangguan Aojian under the lead of the young men. However, when he saw Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu, he became deeply absorbed and could no longer shift his gaze away. "How's it? They don't disappoint, do they?" Hua Fanyan smiled on one side. What he had just done would definitely give Chang Yong-su a better impression of him. He knew that just from Chang Yong-su's expression. Good, good, good. Hua Fanyan, you really haven't disappointed me this time." Chang Yong-su agreed with them. The moment he saw Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu, he became infatuated by their otherworldly beauty. None of the women he had seen in the past possessed their charm. Hua Fanyan immediately became overjoyed by Chang Yong-su's praise. He could not contain his giggles. Chang Yong-su stepped toward Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu. He completely ignored Shangguan Aojian. Shangguan Aojian seemed to sense something as he stood in the crowd. He turned toward Chang Yong-su and could not help but smile slightly. However, his smile gradually froze because he discovered that his younger brother's gaze remained fixated on his two sisters. Chang Yong-su arrived before Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu. He clasped his fists at the two of them and said, "My lovely ladies, I am Chang Yong-su. Chang Yong-ku is my father, and I welcome you in my father's stead to the ceremony." A strange expression filled Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu's face. They both turned to Shangguan Aojian and paid no attention to Chang Yong-su. On the other hand, Shangguan Aojian's face darkened. It became extremely ugly. The gaze he sent toward Chang Yong-su gradually became filled with a vicious light. Chang Yong-su frowned when Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu paid no attention to him, and instead looked at Shangguan Aojian, who he did not even consider. He became displeased. To him, the two of them should have immediately stated their identities and names, since he had gone up to them out of his own accord, as the young master of the Changyang clan. "The young master's talking, do you? Don't you have ears?" A young man who followed Chang Yong-su spoke before Chang Yong-su could say anything else. His gaze was not kind in the slightest. However, he had angered Shangguan Aojian due to what he had said. Shangguan Aojian's eyes immediately became extremely sharp. He coldly said, "If you keep speaking like that, do you believe that I won't cut out your tongue? Even your great-grandfather won't be able to save you then." The young man immediately became surprised and shut up. The experts in the Changyang clan were as common as clouds. People from all four races had come, so if he was careless, he could have offended an organization he could not afford to offend. Although he had befriended Chang Yong-su, he was still not willing to offend a powerful organization. Since the mysterious young man before him could afford to say something like that, he was from a powerful organization without a single doubt. The young men around Chang Yong-su were frightened. They all obediently stood behind Chang Yong-su. Before they learned the young man's identity, they were unwilling to offend him. Whatever happened next would obviously be up to Changyang Su. After all, he was the young master of the Changyang clan. With the clan as his background, there was no need for him to fear any organization in the world. Sir, who are you? Changyang Su coldly asked. Although he had guessed that the young man before him possessed an extraordinary status, he did not take it to heart because he was the young master of the Changyang clan, as well as the only and most beloved grandson of Changyang Ba. I'm your elder brother, Shangguan Aojian coldly responded as disappointment filled his face. He had been eager to see the younger brother he had never met before, but he had now discovered that his brother was just far too disappointing. Chapter 1576. Young Island Master Shangguan Aojian had boldly and confidently said that he was Changyang Su's elder brother. In reality, only his father and Changyang Su's father were brothers. Shangguan Aojian was a few years older than Changyang Su, so it was rather obvious that he was like an elder brother to Changyang Su. That was unquestionable. However, the meaning of the phrase had completely changed when Changyang Su heard it. It had become a provocation, a humiliation. Changyang Su was the young master of the Changyang clan. His great status, coupled with his great arrogance, made it impossible for him to endure the humiliating phrase. Suddenly, Changyang Su's presence drastically changed. At that moment, he seemed to have become a drawn sword, erupting with a sharp, swift, and powerful presence. Of course, the presence was only powerful among the people of his age. His presence as a great saint master was nothing in the Changyang clan, where many experts had gathered. However, many people noticed Changyang Su erupting, but they did not treat it as anything important. In the eyes of these monstrous existences that had lived for thousands of years, they treated it as a fight among kids. Changyang Ba and Changyang Ko obviously noticed this matter as well, but they were currently on stage and were the center of attention, so they were unable to stop the disturbance. Sir, what did you just say? May you repeat it? Changyang Su glared at Shangguan Aojian. He had already locked onto Shangguan Aojian's presence. It appeared like he would start fighting as soon as Shangguan Aojian uttered another word that displeased him. In his tight robes, Shangguan Aojian calmly stood there with his arms crossed. His lips curled up as if he was looking at a joke, but his eyes, which were as sharp as an eagle's eyes, bore some coldness. He calmly said, "You're actually threatening your older brother. I'm your older brother, so can I ask what you plan on doing?" Shangguan Aojian spoke very nonchalantly, but he gently sighed inside. He had heard about his younger brother long ago, about the achievements he had attained at such a young age, and even Shangguan Aojian found them to be pretty impressive. Originally, he had been quite eager to see the brother he had never met, but after coming to the clan and seeing Changyang Su's poor behavior again and again, he was just left disappointed. How dare you? I don't care who you are or where you come from. You won't be able to leave so easily after coming to our Changyang clan to make trouble and provoke us. You have offended the dignity of the clan. Changyang Su furiously exclaimed. His face revealed his anger. A coldness also lingered on his face as well. He had never thought that the unknown young man before him would be so daring. The man before him clearly had no inkling that he was the young master of the clan, but the man before him wanted to dominate him by claiming that he was his elder brother. How could Changyang Su endure something like this, having grown up spoiled? As his right hand moved, a rather powerful saint force surged out and rapidly condensed into a saint weapon. He mercilessly stabbed at Shangguan Aojian. In the Changyang clan, other people would probably fear offending the clan, and thus avoid fighting, but Changyang Su was not afraid, because the current patriarch was his grandfather while his father was about to become the patriarch. With the affection he had received from his grandfather and father, he was confident that he would get off with no punishment for any trouble he made. At most, he would be lectured a few times, because there was no longer anything that the Changyang clan could not deal with its current status. Moreover, he also knew that all the saint emperors in the world owed his uncle a favor. So even if the young man was supported by a saint emperor, the saint emperor would not be able to say a single thing. Many of the sainthood experts gathered in the surroundings began to watch. None of them decided to interfere. They all felt like what Shengguan Aojian had said really had gone overboard. However, many of them also made guesses as to who Xiao Bao, Xiao Qian, and Xiao Yu were. Since Xiao Bao was bold enough to provoke the young master of the clan in public, and even boast that he was the young master's elder brother. Shengguan Aojian did seem slightly older than Changyang Su, but he still could not claim that randomly. After all, their difference in status was just far too great. Shengguan Aojian stood with his arms crossed. Faced with Changyang Su's attack, he showed no intentions of dodging. However, his gaze became even colder the moment Changyang Su stabbed out. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu stood there at ease as well. They watched the two brothers in interest and would gently smile from time to time. "Su'er, do not be rude." When Changyang Su's sword was only 3 inches away from Shengguan Aojian, a dignified voice rang out. At the same time, the space around Changyang Su froze, immobilizing his saint weapon. Changyang Su had used his saint weapon. Changyang Ba was no longer able to ignore what was going on, so he stopped Changyang Su. "Grandfather, let me go. This brat's insulted me. I have to teach him a lesson today. I just can't bear it." Changyang Su loudly cried out with much unwillingness. He felt no fear and Shengguan Aojian's look was condescending. "Su'er, you still don't shut up. Today is the day your father inherits the position as patriarch. As your father's son, you haven't properly received the guests, and even want to start fighting with them. How can you do that? Why don't you apologize to the guest?" Changyang Ba's face sank before becoming stern. "Grandfather, you don't know what happened. This ignorant person said that he was my elder brother. He's basically insulted me. I'll never apologize to him even if I die," Changyang Su furiously replied. He twisted his head away, refusing to apologize. Changyang Ba felt helpless because of Changyang Su's behavior. As his only grandson, he had already begun treating him as his own flesh and blood long ago, basically raising him in the palm of his hand. He had never beaten him or told him off. If Changyang Su had truly become angered, there was nothing he could do as a grandfather. Changyang Ba could only clasp his fist toward Shengguan Aojian, Xiao Qian, and Xiao Yu since he was in a helpless situation. He apologetically said, "I really must apologize for Su'er's misbehavior. It's all because we haven't raised him correctly. If you have been offended, please forgive us. All right, may I ask where you are from? Once the ceremony is over, I will definitely bring Kur with me to personally apologize." "You are too polite, Patriarch. I am Xiao Qian from Three Saint Island, and I greet the Patriarch." "I am Xiao Yu from Three Saint Island. I greet the Patriarch." Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu clasped their hands to Changyang Ba at the same time. They were very polite. "I am Shengguan Aojian from Three Saint Island. I greet the Patriarch." Shengguan Aojian also clasped his hands at Changyang Ba and deeply bowed. He did not bow because Changyang Ba was the patriarch of the Changyang Ba, but rather because he was his grandfather. Three Saint Island. They're actually from Three Saint Island. I've heard of Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu. Aren't they the second and third island mistresses? I never thought that the 2 island mistresses would actually come here. Their statuses are just impressive. It's said that the heavenly enchantress is the main island mistress, while the other 2 island mistresses are her disciple. Oh my god, the 2 women are actually a sovereign's disciples. No wonder they don't fear the Changyang clan. I never thought that even the disciples of a sovereign would come and attend the ceremony. When Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu's identities were revealed, there was quite an uproar in the clan. At that moment, the gazes everyone sent the 3 of them changed. They became filled with envy. All the experts from the 4 races had learned about Three Saint Island long ago, since their island mistress was an Origin Realm sovereign. She had even controlled 5 Origin Realm experts from the foreign world, using her zither during the battle, shocking both friends and foes alike. In the eyes of the sainthood experts, the Origin Realm would allow one to reign supreme in the world, something almost unattainable. Yet, the heavenly enchantress was able to control 5 of them. It was just too terrifying. Changyang Ba became surprised before chuckling aloud. He walked off the platform with Changyang Ku, and personally went up to receive them. He smiled, "So it's the island mistresses." I've failed to welcome you from afar, so please forgive me. Speaking of which, Three Saint Island and the Changyang clan are familiar with one another. I've heard Xiang'er mention Three Saint Island many times in the past, and he also seems to have stayed there for some time as well. The patriarch is correct. Master Jianshan has indeed stayed at our island for quite some time in the past. Xiao Qian giggled and glanced at Shangguan Aojian with a profound meaning. She then pointed at Shangguan Aojian and said, Patriarch, this is our young master. Young master. Changyang Ba was surprised once again. He could not help but properly look at Shangguan Aojian. He felt something strange from that glance. He suddenly found the young man more pleasing to the eye the longer he looked at him, and took a liking of him. The surrounding guests were all surprised when they learned that Shangguan Aojian was the young island master. This was quite the status, no lesser than Changyang Su's status in the Changyang clan. He was probably the heavenly enchantress successor. Everyone came to an understanding, with Shangguan Aojian's status as the young island master, claiming to be Changyang Su's elder brother, was a matter of fact. After all, his status was no lesser than Changyang Su's, and he was clearly a few years older than Changyang Su. Being the young island master is only holding an empty name. If it were not for my grandfather earlier, you would have been injured by me, said Changyang Su. He clearly did not treat Shangguan Aojian as a big deal at all. Changyang Ba's face suddenly sank. When he was about to reproach Changyang Su, Shangguan Aojian spoke instead. Brother, you can't be too proud as a person, let alone look down on everyone. You need to know that there is always someone better than you out there. You may have achieved your current accomplishments, but you need to bear in mind that the reasons you have achieved them all came from your uncle. Shangguan Aojian, even if you are the young island master, you are not greater than me. Of course I know that there is always someone better than me out there. In my generation, I am that person. Moreover, you couldn't even take a strike from my sword as a young island master. In this world, those who are weak will never have the right to speak. Changyang Su was extremely arrogant. He firmly believed that if his attack had not been stopped by his grandfather, the young island master before him would have been injured. Shangguan Aojian gently sighed and said, Brother, you're far too arrogant. If you don't change your mindset, you'll doom yourself sooner or later. Even the clan might end up dragged into your mess. As your elder brother, I have to teach you a proper lesson, so that you will understand that you can never claim to be the best. Attack me. I won't move. If you can injure me even in the slightest, it'll be my loss. Chapter 1577. Gamble Changyuang Su was slightly stunned. The young island master before him was actually claiming that he could emerge unscathed from his attack without fighting back, and would admit his loss if he lost a single hair. Changyang Su doubted his ears. Young island master, may I ask how long you've been cultivating? If you've been cultivating for a century or longer, it would not be surprising if I can't beat you. Changyang Su emotionlessly inquired. If the young island master had already cultivated for several hundred years, he would not be able to harm him. After all, Changyang Su was only 20 years old. Suer's right. The young island master has admitted that he's older than Suer, so he's definitely cultivated for far longer. If Suer loses, it's not surprising. Changyang Su's mother walked over from afar. She smiled amicably. She had to reveal herself as Changyang Su's mother before so many people. Shangguan Aojian sniggered. Younger brother, I may be older than you, but it's only 3 or 4 years at most. If you think that is unfair, then I'll stand here without dodging at all. At the same time, I won't defend or block your attack, and you can use your entire strength, including any battle skills you've comprehended. If you can get through my skin, it'll be my defeat. How's that? Changyang Su immediately stopped worrying when he learned about Shangguan Aojian's age. However, what Shangguan Aojian said near the end caused his face to warp. He coldly said, You really think too highly of yourself. Do you think your body is forged from steel? Even steel is no different than soil before me. But since you're so confident, I'll take you up on your offer. I do, however, feel like it'll be more interesting if we make a wager. Near the end, Changyang Su mysteriously smiled. A gamble? Shangguan Aojian murmured. He could not help but smile mysteriously as well. He said, "Sure. What are you going to wager?" With a flip of his hand, Changyang-su pulled out 5 wooden boxes. He said, "I'll wager 5 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. If you win, they'll all belong to you. But if you lose, you need to leave behind all the cultivation methods and battle skills from 3 Saint Island." When the people in the surroundings heard what Changyang-su wanted to wager, they immediately began to laugh. 5 10,000-year-old heavenly resources were very valuable, but they were not unique. They could even be bought with purple coins during some larger auctions. However, the cultivation methods and battle skills of 3 Saint Island were truly priceless. They were things that even Saint Emperors would drool over. Basically, everyone expected Shangguan Aojian to never agree to what Changyang-su had proposed. It was an unfair gamble. Hee. You want to use 5 10,000-year-old heavenly resources to trade for all of the cultivation methods and battle skills from 3 Saint Island. That would be a bad idea, but I'm going to agree to it. Shangguan Aojian chuckled. All the surrounding people became stunned when they heard how Shangguan Aojian would agree. Disbelief flooded their faces. At that moment, they had no idea what to say. They really were unsure whether the young island master was too confident or truly possessed the strength to back it up. There were some people who even began to attempt to see through Shangguan Aojian's strength. However, he possessed the innate chaotic body and used a completely different cultivation system than the Tianyuan continent. Coupled with the fact that he was stronger than quite a few of the people present, even Saint Emperors were not able to see his exact strength among the people present. At this moment, Shangguan Aojian slowly pulled out an extremely roughly crafted box from his space ring. He said, "Younger brother, if you really do win, not only will I agree to your request, but I'll even give this to you. If you lose, I don't want your heavenly resources. I just want you to call me elder brother in front of everyone." As he said that, Shangguan Aojian opened the wooden box. A fist-sized violet peach immediately appeared before everyone. All the sainthood experts stopped breathing when they saw the peach. Their eyes all widened as shock filled their faces. Many of their eyes began to burn with desire, revealing deeply hidden greed. It's a violet cloud peach. It's actually a violet cloud peach. A violet cloud peach can assist a Saint King in breaking through to Saint Emperor. The young island master has actually used a violet cloud peach as his wager. He's squandering it. Aside from Sovereign Jianchen, there's no one else in the world who has violet cloud peaches. This is a supreme treasure. Every single peach is priceless. Young island master, how can you wager something so valuable? You're far too reckless. The appearance of the immortal peach immediately caused the surrounding crowd to explode like gunpowder. They were thrown into an uproar. There was rarely a person who could remain composed when looking at an immortal peach. At the same time, a few people managed to calm down, and the gazes they sent Shangguan Aojian became stern. Not only did the young island master possess violet cloud peaches, but he declared that he would gamble it, and the 2 women beside him did not stop him. This clearly indicated that the 2 of them did not mind that Shangguan Aojian could potentially lose the peach. Or maybe they did not think he would lose at all. Suer's already lost, thought Changyang-ba. There was no need for the fight. He already knew the outcome. He even believed that the young island master had already ingested an immortal peach. However, Changyang-su did not reach the same conclusion. His eyes reddened at the sight of the immortal peach in Shangguan Aojian's hands. He knew that all immortal peaches came from his uncle. However, even as the young master of the Changyang clan, having consumed countless heavenly resources across the years, he had never seen the legendary violet cloud peach, let alone owned one. Even his grandfather did not have one. I must win this fight. I have to win no matter what the price is. I must obtain the violet cloud peach. Changyang-su drooled inside. The violet cloud peach was the only shortcut to sainthood. If he obtained it, he would quickly become a powerful expert. Changyang-su immediately began to move. He wielded his saint weapon and aggressively charged toward Shangguan Aojian as a blur. His saint weapon was a sword that was 2 fingers wide. Wind-attributed saint force coiled around it as he stabbed at Shangguan Aojian's chest as quickly as he could. Shangguan Aojian smiled as if he was watching a jest. He stood there without dodging or using any protective energies either. He was a sitting duck. When Chang Yangsu's sword struck Shangguan Aojian, his clothes turned to tatters, but there was not a single wound on his body. Chang Yangsu's full-powered attack could not even make it through Shangguan Aojian's skin. Chapter 1578. Shock. This is impossible. How can your body be so powerful? It's even tougher than high-class magical beasts. Chang Yangsu stared at Shangguan Aojian in shock and disbelief. At that moment, he even began to suspect that Shangguan Aojian was a high-class magical beast that had assumed a human form. How else could he explain how Shangguan Aojian's body was so tough? Chang Yangsu was only a great saint master, but he grew up in the Changyang clan, so he had come in contact with many sainthood experts throughout his childhood. He had gained a rough understanding of the strength of sainthood experts, but according to what he knew, saint rulers were still unable to endure a full-powered attack from him if they did not use saint force. Even saint kings would not be able to accomplish such a feat. Only magical beasts could achieve such a tough body. What a tough body! Probably only Sovereign Jianshan has a body as tough as that aside-form magical beasts, said an old man in the crowd. His voice was filled with amazement. He was a saint emperor. I may not be able to see the young island master's strength, but just that attack is enough to determine that the young island master has definitely exceeded everyone's expectations. No wonder he's from Three Saint Island. He's so powerful just at the age of 23. He's no worse than Sovereign Jianshan in the past, actually, said a middle-aged man. He was an ancestor of an ancient clan and a saint king at the 9th heavenly layer. The young island master really is worthy of being called a prodigy, but in my opinion, there's still a great difference from Sovereign Jianshan. After all, Sovereign Jianshan obtained his strength through his own effort, unlike the young island master and the younger master of the Changyang clan, whose strength originates from the support of their families. And the young island master has probably eaten a violet cloud peach in the past. A ruddy old man nonchalantly added his thoughts to the mix. Many human experts all clasped their fists at the old man when they saw him. They showed some respect. The old man was Zhangqiong. He was different from everyone else, having become a saint emperor from his own hard work, unlike the other saint emperors who had all eaten violet cloud peaches. After ingesting an immortal peach, his strength had reached the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Emperor. Among the 4 races, there were only a few people who had reached the 9th heavenly layer as Saint Emperors. Aside from Sangxiong and Yadrium, there were the 4 brothers, Ada, Air, Asin and ACI. And now that the seal preventing breakthroughs to the origin realm was gone, it was likely that the 6 peak Saint Emperors would break through. Brother, do you admit defeat? Shangguan Aojian indifferently asked as he stood there with his arms crossed. Chang Yangsu coldly snorted and said, "Even if you're the young island master of Three Saint Island, you have no right to claim you're better than me. I'd like to see if you can emerge unscathed from my Earth tier battle skill." With that, Chang Yangsu roared out. Saint force surged out of his body without any restraint at all. He was enveloped by a thick layer of azure light, caused by his wind-attributed saint force. As he used the Earth tier battle skill, violent gusts of wind appeared in the Changyang clan, kicking dust and sand into the air. At this moment, Changyang Ba casually waved his hand. With that, all the dust and sand in the air vanished. Meanwhile, he looked at Changyang Su and nodded, feeling satisfied. He thought, impressive. I never thought that Sewer had comprehended such a great Earth tier battle skill. Wind assassination. After charging up, Chang Yangsu finally cast his Earth tier battle skill. His entire body seemed to have fused with the wind as he charged at Shangguan Aojian, with a speed far beyond what a great saint master could exhibit. The wind-attributed saint force on his saint weapon had compressed as well. Thud! With a heavy sound, Chang Yangsu's Earth tier battle skill firmly landed on Shangguan Aojian, and it erupted with quite a powerful ripple of energy. Chang Yangsu clearly found the energy ripple difficult to endure as a great saint master, so he was forced to rapidly retreat. He became rather pale. It was quite difficult for him to use a powerful earth-tier battle skill. However, Changyang-su paid no attention to himself. He stared ahead. His eyes were filled with eagerness. He was eager to see Shangguan Aojian injured by the attack. If Shangguan Aojian was injured, even just a tiny bit, the violet cloud peach would become his spoils as agreed upon earlier. However, Changyang-su was completely stunned a moment later. Disbelief flooded his eyes. Shangguan Aojian had emerged unscathed after taking on the earth-tier battle skill with his body. Even Changyang-su's strongest attack failed to leave a mark on Shangguan Aojian. Impossible, this is impossible. You're cheating. You must have been cheating. Changyang-su cried out rather crazily. He refused to accept this fact. The young island master was only 3 or 4 years older than him. Yet he possessed such a terrifying strength. He was unable to do anything to just his body, which was a great shock to Changyang-su, who had always been arrogant and acted condescendingly. The violet cloud peach. Yes, it must be the violet cloud peach. You must have consumed it, which is why you possess this strength. This is unfair. If I had a violet cloud peach as well, you would never be my opponent, Changyang-su loudly declared. At that moment, he suddenly felt envious, so envious that he almost turned green. At the same time, he felt more and more displeased by his uncle. He thought, my uncle is just too biased. He is willing to give a violet cloud peach to an outsider but not me. Shangguan Aojian, there's nothing for you to be complacent about. You've won, but you've obtained your strength from a violet cloud peach. Otherwise, you would have never been my opponent. Changyang-su was very reluctant to give in. He was still extremely arrogant even when the situation had developed like this. He did not know how to stand down. Shangguan Aojian did not become angered. Younger brother, why don't you think about whether you'd still have your current accomplishments if you didn't have an entire clan supporting you from behind? If they had spent their cultivation resources on someone else, they'd also be able to attain what you have today. I must admit that I only have my strength today because of the violet cloud peach and various heavenly resources. But so what? That's nothing to be arrogant about. You, Changyang-su was completely tongue-tied. His face alternated between dark and pale. He had always been arrogant and viewed himself better than others, even looking down on the other people the same age as him. However, the achievements he took pride in were described as nothing by Shangguan Aojian, and he just happened to not know how to respond. Chapter 1579. Gifts. The young island master is right. Sewer, you really grown too arrogant over the past few years. Look at the young island master. He's so young and possesses such strength, yet he maintains a low profile. He views fame and glory as nothing. If this had not happened in the clan today, the young island master would probably have kept his strength hidden. You should learn from him. No matter how glorious your achievements are, you cannot become arrogant and cocky, much less condescending. It's just like what the young island master said before. There is always a person better than you out there. You have to take this to heart. Changyang-ba walked over and gently gave Changyang-su some words of advice before turning to Shangguan Aojian. There was clearly admiration for the young island master in his eyes. I seem to see Xianger's shadow on the young island master. Xianger also liked to keep a low profile when he was young. He never showed off his talent. Even when the Saint Force test had gone wrong and he had been deemed a cripple, he could have explained it all. But he did not, paying no attention to what others thought of him. Instead, he remained in the clan and cultivated quietly. Only when he got into a conflict with a person from the kitchen did he reveal his strength. The greatest pride in my life is Xiang. The glory the clan has today all comes from him. If the clan did not have him, the clan would not be here today. Changyang-ba could not help but emotionally sigh. He felt strangely attached to Shangguan Aojian. Shangguan Aojian made him remember the familiar face. He really could see Jianchen's shadow on Shangguan Aojian. Shangguan Aojian said nothing. He paid attention to Changyang-ba as Changyang-ba talked about Jianchen's past. It seemed like he found Jianchen extremely interesting. Whether it was something significant or insignificant, he was unwilling to miss a single detail. The only pity was that Changyang-ba stopped talking about Jianchen's childhood after saying just a little. And then, seeing how Changyang Ba showed no intentions of continuing, Shangguan Aojian could not help but ask. Changyang Ba looked at Shangguan Aojian with a smile. The young island master seems to be very interested in Xiang'er's past. Shangguan Aojian nodded. He did not deny that. Fair enough. I've taken a liking to you since my first glance. Since the young island master is so interested in Xiang'er's past, feel free to stay for a few days after the ceremony comes to a close, Changyang Ba offered. He realized that he was liking the young island master more and more. Then I'll disturb you for a few days with my two sisters. Shangguan Aojian agreed with pleasure. He had not told Changyang Ba how he was related to him, but he had already begun to treat the Changyang clan as his own family. At the same time, he had obtained a rather good impression of his grandfather after meeting him the first time. Oh right, I've prepared some small gifts for the patriarch and the four madams, Shangguan Aojian continued. Two exquisitely decorated boxes appeared in his hands. They were completely made from purple gold, making them possess great quality, yet not going overboard. Just the two boxes were priceless. When Shangguan Aojian mentioned the patriarch, he also mentioned the four madams, so everyone understood that he was referring to the old patriarch and not Changyang Ku, because only Changyang Ba had four wives. Changyang Ba joyously accepted the two boxes from Shangguan Aojian. For some reason, he felt even happier than received 100,000-year-old heavenly resources when he received Shangguan Aojian's gifts. Even though he had no idea what was inside them, this was the first time he had felt giddy during the ceremony. He clearly did not pay too much attention to what was inside the boxes. Changyang Ba did not plan on opening the boxes, and instead passed them to a servant standing by his side. Our young island master's gifts must be extraordinary. Why don't you open them and have a look, patriarch? Xiao Qian suddenly encouraged Changyang Ba to open the gift while standing beside Shangguan Aojian. Xiao Qian belonged to Three Saint Island, and her master was a sovereign. Many guests in the surroundings immediately became curious when even she described the gifts as extraordinary. Some good friends of Changyang Ba urged him to open the boxes so that they could all see what was in them. Fair enough. Since everyone's so interested, let's see what the young island master has gifted me, Changyang Ba said with a straightforward tone. With a friendly smile, he opened a box from the servant next to him. All the guests in the surroundings held their breaths as they watched. Very soon, the box was opened and a faint fragrance immediately drifted out. With just a slight sniff, all the people immediately felt their concentration gather together. At that moment, they felt like their heads had become extremely light and their souls had grown. The mysteries of the world that they could not comprehend earlier seemed to have become clearer, where they felt like they were about to break through. This phenomenon immediately shocked everyone in the surroundings. They all stared at the box. Just the fragrance from it possessed such an unimaginable effect. They all became extremely curious as to what treasure was inside. Inside the box rested a pouch of fragrance. The fragrance originated from the pouch. The young island master's gift is just far too valuable, Changyang Ba sighed in surprise. Everyone understood the value of the pouch of fragrance after just a single whiff. It had surpassed everyone else's gifts. This pouch of fragrance was personally created by our young island master. He used the powder of many heavenly resources. Just the 100,000-year-old heavenly resources amount to 12, Xiao Yu said. What? He used 1,200,000-year-old heavenly resources to create a pouch of fragrance? Isn't the young island master just too wealthy? Even peak organizations find 100,000-year-old heavenly resources rare treasures. Yet the young island master has used 12 of them to make a pouch of fragrance. How can those peak organizations match up to that? All the guests became stunned by what Xiao Yu had said. The young island master could no longer be described as just wealthy. Xiao Yu giggled as she heard the sighs of surprise in the surroundings. She continued, the 100,000-year-old heavenly resources are only the average standard used to make this fragrance pouch. As for the heavenly resources beyond that, I won't describe them since they've even surpassed my understanding. Even I don't know their names. What? The 100,000-year-old heavenly resources are only average? Oh my god, is this really a pouch of fragrance? Including Changyang Ba. Everyone became stunned. Disbelief flooded their faces. Shangguan Aojin smiled at everyone's reactions. He spoke like everyone was normal. I used 3 years to create this pouch of fragrance. When you wear it, not only does help you concentrate by collecting your thoughts and removing anything that bothers your mind, but it can also assist by helping you comprehend the mysteries of the world when you cultivate with it. It's even effective for radiant saint masters. I've specifically prepared this for the 4th madam. Changyang Ba blankly stared at the pouch of fragrance. The young island master had actually gifted such a precious thing to Bai Yuntian. He had no idea what to say because the gift was just too precious. It sure sounds great from how you describe it, but who knows if it's fake? Changyang Su mumbled to himself in a voice that only he could hear. He really envied the young island master. He was the young master of the Changyang clan. Although he had consumed a few 10,000-year-old heavenly resources, he had never touched or even seen 100,000-year-old heavenly resources. Yet the young island master had used 12 of them to make a pouch of fragrance. Patriarch, the 2nd box was also specially prepared for you by the young island master. Xiao Yu said again, urging Changyang Ba to open the 2nd box. Changyang Ba sucked in a deep breath and slowly placed the lid back on the 1st box. At this moment, he discovered his hand had begun to tremble slightly. The young island master had used 1,200,000-year-old heavenly resources to make a pouch of fragrance, and they were only regarded as average among everything that went into the pouch. It was probably the only object in the world to have so many extravagant resources poured into it. Uncle Chang arrived beside Changyang Ba. After passing the box to Uncle Chang to look after, he picked up the other box from the servant and carefully opened it. Chapter 1580. Departure. The young island master sure is extravagant. Just the gift to the 4th madam was made from more than 100,000-year-old heavenly resources, and heavenly resources superior to that. Just its value is unimaginable. I wonder what the young island master is giving to the patriarch. I think the 2nd gift from the young island master must even exceed the value of the 1st. We can tell just from the looks of the young island master and the 2 women beside him. I wonder what it is. Many of the surrounding guests mumbled to themselves and began discussions with one another out of interest. They could say that just the 1st gift from Shangguan Aojin had exceeded what the various peak organizations could afford to give out. So the 2nd gift obviously garnered much of their attention as well. Finally, Changyang Ba opened the 2nd box under everyone's curious gazes. They immediately saw a fist-sized violet peach. It was a violet cloud peach. That was not all that was in the box. Beside it lay a palm-sized leaf and 3 glistening earthen yellow crystals. Pure energy would surge within the crystals from time to time. It's a violet cloud peach and comprehension tea leaf. No, this one is clearly different from the immortal peach that the young island master had taken out earlier. Not only is this peach larger, its color is deeper. It's clearly even better than the immortal peach he had taken out earlier. The young island master actually has 2 violet cloud peaches. Oh my god, everyone in the world will be envious of him. What kind of treasure is a violet cloud peach? Come to think of it, I only ate a small piece of the peach back then. Being able to eat a whole peach is just a wild dream of mine. Yet the young island master has taken out 2 today. The heavenly enchantress really does dote on the young island master. Aside from Sovereign Jianchen, no one has violet cloud peaches. The young island master must have obtained his from Sovereign Jianchen. At that moment, more than half of the sainthood experts gathered there looked at Shangguan Aojin with a gaze of great envy. Violet cloud peaches were treasures that even saint emperors would drool over. Even origin realm sovereigns would find them irresistible, because a single peach was equivalent to several hundred, or even thousands of years of cultivation. It was the only heavenly resources that could allow people to drastically power up in a short amount of time. Many people present had not been able to enjoy a full peach all to themselves. Yet Shangguan Aojin had pulled out 2. They immediately became green with envy. Chang Yong-su was affected in particular. When he saw Shangguan Aojian pull out 2 violet cloud peaches, and even a comprehension tea leaf, he had become as envious as he could be. At the same time, he felt more and more displeased by his uncle. My uncle is so biased. The young island master's not even his family. Yet why has he given so many to the young island master? He's even given him comprehension tea leaves. Yet I haven't received anything at all. Chang Yong-su glared at Shangguan Aojian, as if he was about to erupt into a rage. Only now did he suddenly realize that he was just a jester before the young island master. He had always taken pride in being able to use 10,000-year-old heavenly resources as he wished, and that he could access the various battle skills in the clan. His strength and talent indicated he was a prodigy as well, having become a great saint master at the young age of 20. Even with the entire world in perspective, the number of people who had achievements like him at his age could be counted on a single hand. Or maybe, there was not a single person as prodigious as him. Only when the young island master appeared before him, did he suddenly realize that the things he took pride in were nothing special. It's all because of Uncle. It's all Uncle's fault. Chang Yong-su blamed Jian-chun for everyone, and did not admit that he was worse than the young island master. He blamed his uncle because he was the young master of the Changyang clan, so his status was great. He did not allow himself to be worse than anyone. He had adapted to the mindset that he was better than everyone else. I think everyone is familiar with the violet cloud peach and comprehension tea leaf, but I don't think you've seen the 3 crystals. Any single of the crystals are equivalent to Class 9 monster cores, but they're even better. These are my small gifts to the Patriarch. If the Patriarch uses the 3 crystals to cultivate, your strength will increase drastically in a very short amount of time. You can ingest the violet cloud peach after several decades, and you'll become a saint emperor for sure, Shangguan Aojian said loudly. Good, good, good. I'll accept the great gifts from the young island master then. Ha ha ha, these are the most valuable gifts I have ever received in my life. Chang Yongba laughed aloud, and did not try to turn them down. He put the lid back on and passed it to Uncle Chang. At the same time, Chang Yong-su's eyes lit up. He had already made up his mind while staring at the box with the violet cloud peach. After the ceremony ended, he would go and find his grandfather and request the immortal peach. He refused to believe that he was unable to defeat the young island master after eating the peach. Shangguan Aojian noticed Chang Yong-su's gaze. He sniggered inside and walked over. He said, "Brother, you've lost. You still have to call me elder brother." Chang Yong-su's face sank. He coldly stared at Shangguan Aojian and frigidly said, "You've only won because you've eaten a violet cloud peach. The fight between us was unfair, so I'm not going to admit defeat. I'll challenge you again in half a year's time." "All right, then I'll be waiting for your challenge." Shangguan Aojian did not take the matter to heart. He turned around and left after saying that, but he seemed to think of something after taking a few steps. He turned around and chuckled at Chang Yong-su. "Brother, you're probably waiting for your uncle to return and give you violet cloud peaches, right? I'd advise you to give up on that thought. If you don't change your mindset, your uncle will never support you because your uncle dislikes wastrels." Chang Yongba glanced at Shangguan Aojian with deep meaning when he heard that. He clearly understood that Shangguan Aojian's words were for him despite the fact that Shangguan Aojian was speaking to Chang Yong-su. However, Chang Yongba said nothing. He had clearly noticed that his only grandson really did have a few places that needed improvement after seeing the behavior of the young island master of Three Saint Island. Shangguan Aojian remained a few days longer at the Changyang clan. Because of his identity as the young island master of Three Saint Island, and since he was accompanied by Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu, he possessed a very great status in the Changyang clan. Even the ancestors from the Zhu branch personally came out to greet him. Shangguan Aojian was very polite, even treating the servants of the clan with great courtesy. When he saw senior members of the clan, he would bow to them as a junior without putting on any airs. So all the people in the clan took a great liking to the young island master. Bai Yintian, in particular, treated Shangguan Aojian like her own relative. She liked him very much. Shangguan Aojian did not reveal that he was Jian Chen's son, so all of the people in the clan still had no clue. He only moved about as the young island master of Three Saint Island. While he stayed at the Changyang clan, Shangguan Aojian learned many things about his father's past. Of course, no one else knew that Bai Yuntian was telling him all these things. Several days later, Shangguan Aojian bid farewell to Changyang Ba and Bai Yuntian. He left the Changyang clan with his two sisters while maintaining a low profile. Xiao Bao, where do you want to go next? Xiao Qian asked Shangguan Aojian, while walking down a busy street in Lore City. I want to go visit the Huayan sect and see their sect master, Cheng Mingxiang. Chapter 1581. Tai Tai emerges. The most eastern part of the wasteland continent belonged to the elves. 100,000 kilometers from the inhabited forest was an extremely large tomb. The tomb was snow-white, constructed from solar essence metal. This was the only mineral that was mined on the continent. It was formed from ordinary stone while in a dry environment, absorbing the power of the sun for countless years. It was very valuable on the wasteland continent. Its value even exceeded the value of tungsten alloy on the Tianyuan continent. The metal was extremely tough, making it virtually indestructible without the strength of a saint ruler. On the continent, the metal was a resource that only large clans or organizations could use, because not only could it be used to create high-quality weapons, but it also possessed a sliver of the sun's power. With a unique secret technique, people could refine the power of the sun hidden within and use it for cultivation. However, even among the powerful organizations on the wasteland continent, there was not a lot of the metal. However, the huge tomb was completely built out of it, making it seem like just a single piece. There were no cracks nor any signs left behind from when it was constructed. It was impossible to destroy solar essence metal without the strength of a saint ruler. Yet the tomb seemed to be created from a single piece of the metal. Even ignoring just how valuable the entire tomb was, just constructing it would have been a difficult matter. The marks on the tomb showed that it has existed for an extremely long amount of time. Even though the tomb was completely clean, without a speck of dust, it was still unable to hide the marks left behind by time. The extravagant tomb had stood there for a very long time. Not only was there no one who dared to covet it, but it was also worshipped by all of the races on the wasteland continent. Many saint kings among them that worshipped it, causing the tomb to become a sacred land that no one could blaspheme. This was the tomb of Ergens. Even though he had fallen in battle many years ago, he still lived on in the hearts of all his clansmen. At the same time, this was where Ergens' remains had been sealed. A powerful seal existed beneath the tomb. Many people would come to Ergens' tomb. They would kneel, pray, and clean the tomb. And today was obviously not an exception. Over 10,000 people were praying before the tomb. However, at this moment, the ground began to gently tremble. The earth moved, as if the entire continent was shaking. Even the tomb began to shake. At the same time, a tremendous presence emerged from the depths of the structure. The power of the presence made the earth shake. At that moment, the entire wasteland continent was enveloped by the extremely tremendous presence, while the wind and clouds had already begun to churn in the sky above. The thick layers of clouds above the continent rapidly dispersed, due to the crushing presence, turning into nothingness. The tremendous presence soon extended beyond the wasteland continent. In just a short moment, it engulfed the Tianyuan continent, the Beast God continent, the Sea Realm, and the Arctic tundra, basically the entire world. It shocked everyone who felt it. The several Origin Realm experts in the Supreme Divine Hall all glanced in the direction of the wasteland continent. They were joyful. It's Taita. He's broken through, said Feng Xiaotian as he smiled faintly. Fantastic, we've become stronger yet again, said the sea goddess. Taita had finally emerged from seclusion after 3 years, which relieved the Origin Realm experts who continued to stand guard in the Divine Hall. Space gates opened one after another outside Ergens' tomb. Many Saint Kings and Saint Emperors hurried over as soon as possible. Not only were there people from the 100 races, but there were magical beast and human saint kings and saint emperors as well. In the past, any outsider would definitely met obstructions in the form of experts from the 100 races, if they had come to this holy place. But they were all united under a single cause now, having completely abandoned their previous territorial practices. As a result, the 100 races welcomed the arrival of the humans and magical beasts. It's the war god. The war god has emerged from seclusion. The experts of the 100 races all cried out as they gathered outside the tomb. Their voices were filled with joy. It was possible to tell with a single glance that the war god's strength had increased. The 100 races viewed the war god as their spiritual leader, so they were naturally extremely excited to learn that Taita's strength had increased. The war god has finally reappeared after disappearing for 3 years. Over the past 3 years, the war god must have been receiving Ergin's legacy in the tomb. I wonder what level the war god's strength will have reached now that he is emerging. I wonder if he's surpassed the human sovereign. The human sovereign's vanished for 3 years as well, and there's been no news of him. If the human sovereign's strength has not increased at all in the past 3 years, he'll no longer be the war god's opponent. The war god and the winged tiger god have a feud. The war god's strength has increased yet again, but the winged tiger god only broke through to the origin realm after receiving the legacy in the beast god hall, and has been in the supreme divine hall for the past 3 years. The winged tiger god's strength has not increased at all, so he is probably no longer the war god's opponent. Many thoughts sprang into the heads of the human and magical beast experts. Without a doubt, the increase of the war god's strength had drastically raised the 100 races' status. At this moment, the terrifying presence that made the world shake suddenly vanished. A dazzling golden light appeared before the tomb. It hung in the sky like a miniature sun, illuminating the surroundings with a blinding light. In the light was a blurry figure, and without any surprise, that figure belonged to Taita. We welcomed the war god after emerging from seclusion. All the people from the 100 races knelt and loudly cried out. Their voices were filled with excitement and joy. The humans and magical beasts did not kneel, but they looked at Taita with polite gazes and bowed. There's no need to be so courteous. I'm going to the Divine Hall in Mercenary City immediately, so I'll be leaving first, Taita said with his deep, soft voice. After that, he used his mysteries of war and slammed through space with his body. He traversed through the void, headed to the Supreme Divine Hall. The golden light on Taita was concealed in the Supreme Divine Hall. Taita held a piece of beast fur as he stood there. His skin glistened like gold, and there was even a metallic luster like treasure on the surface of his skin. Tianjian the white tiger, Xiaoling Xiaojin, the sea goddess, Yanglai, and so on all gathered their attention on Taita and closely examined him. However, none of them were able to discern just what level of cultivation Taita had reached. Taita, are you currently receival or returnance? The sea goddess asked. Taita scratched his head and said, I don't know what I've reached. My cultivation method is different from all of yours. However, I feel like I don't have to fear Ouyang Yangwen anymore. Alright, the beast fur I have right now was created from the fusion of the 18 pieces. Only after joining them together did I discover another secret in the beast furs. Chapter 1582. Secret of the Beast Furs. 1. Taita held out the beast fur in his hand, and slowly glanced at the people in front of him, and the fused beast fur from time to time. The beast fur had become visibly larger, after all the smaller beast furs had fused together. Taita's expression was rather strange, filled with some confusion. He was rather puzzled. It was as if the secret hidden within the beast fur made Taita extremely surprised, and that there were many aspects that he did not understand. All the Origin Realm experts looked at the beast fur as well. Even though they could see that the secret hidden within the beast fur was probably extraordinary due to Taita's expression, none of them did not proceed to take the fur. What secret's hidden inside? Let me have a look. In the end, Xiaoling was the first one to move. As childish as she was, she obviously did not try to push it away out of courtesy. Her bright eyes were filled with interest and curiosity. She grabbed the beast's fur from Tai Ta's hands. She used her small hands to unfold it, and found that there was nothing on the snow-white fur. All she could feel was gentle fur. Xiaoling paused before examining the beast's fur in closer detail. Doubt filled her face, but as soon as she became doubtful, she seemed to think of something. Her eyes lit up as she said, "I understand. I can only see the secret by using my soul." Hee. Xiaoling curiously giggled as she sent her soul into the beast's fur. Everyone gathered their attention on Xiaoling. The secret within the beast's fur had even shocked and confused Tai Ta, so they were curious to learn its secret, but no one wanted to take the lead. However, just a few seconds after Xiaoling sent her soul into the beast's fur, her face suddenly changed, and she could not help but tremble. Her eyes became misty as translucent tears welled up in her eyes. She seemed very sad. "Sob, master, where are you? Don't abandon me. I miss you so much, master. Where are you?" Surprisingly, Xiaoling suddenly began to cry after sending her soul into the beast's fur. She became extremely sorrowful as tears poured from her eyes like a fountain. As the tears ran down her cheek, they struck the floor with a pitter-patter, splashing into smaller drops. Xiaoling's tears flowed without stopping as she sobbed. She seemed to have gone from a happy girl to an abandoned child in a single moment. She became extremely sad and filled with sorrow. She seemed completely helpless. Tianjian, the sea goddess, Houston Yonglai, Feng Xiaotian, Guihai Dao Tai Ta, and so on all looked at each other. All of them were speechless. However, everyone could sympathize with Xiaoling as she cried. All of them felt pity for her. At the same time, everyone became even more curious as to what secret was hidden within the beast's fur. "Sister Xiaoling, don't cry. You still have me. I'm your younger brother Xiao Jin said as he held Xiaoling's hand. Although 3 years had already passed, Xiao Jin had not changed at all. He looked the same as before, a 3 or 4-year-old old. He looked naive and cute. When Xiao Jin spoke, he grabbed the beast's fur from Xiaoling's hand. Without any interest in the secret hidden within the beast's fur, he shoved it into Houston's hands. To Xiao Jin, Xiaoling suddenly began to cry because of the beast's fur. He obviously could not let it remain with Xiaoling any longer. The white tiger in human form also seemed to remember the father he had never met when he saw how sad Xiaoling had become. Indescribable sorrow appeared on his face as well. He stood there silently without saying anything at all. Over the past 3 years, the white tiger had always remained silent. He rarely spoke, making him seem cold. His face appeared the same as before, remaining just as youthful as before with snow-white hair. However, the childishness on his face was gone. It had been replaced by resolute and cold expression that did not suit his age. He looked as heroic as a general that had gone through many wars. When Houston obtained the beast fur, everyone immediately shifted their gazes to him. Houston silently thought about what to do before throwing the beast fur into the air. He froze it in the air with an invisible power, so that it would not fall to the ground. Since everyone is so interested in the secret hidden inside, why don't we all have a look together? Houston said to everyone. Aside from Tai Ta, Xiao Jin, and Xiaoling, everyone sent their souls into the beast fur. Even Tianjian was not an exception. He sent his soul inside in order to observe the mysteries hidden within. There seemed to be a whole different world within the beast fur. When everyone's soul entered the beast fur, they saw the vast outer space. Stars packed every inch of the surroundings while glistening brightly. Everyone became stunned at the sight. None of them had thought that there would be an entire world hidden within the beast fur. The world was not particularly large, but what shocked them even more was that they could actually sense a complete set of laws in the sea of stars. These laws were not present in the world they came from. At the same time, after a closer examination, they realized that the laws were extremely complete, but different from the laws outside, as if they were missing something else. As a result, the universe they stood in no longer seemed complete. Slaughter governs life. It reigns above all life and moves through the fate of all organisms. My way is the way of slaughter. At this moment, a vague voice rang out in the heads of everyone like a great bell. As the voice rang out, the vast sea of stars seemed to vibrate. Countless stars glistened and alternated between light and dark. They seemed to be alive. With that, a white-robed man silently appeared before everyone. His clothes and long hair gently fluttered. He had his back to everyone, obscuring his face. His body was filled with the strange presence of ways, making him seem like he had fused with the world, as if he was the world, or, maybe in other words, like the world had conjured him. Who is this? Is this the winged tiger god? The Origin Realm experts were all shocked. Their powers were greatly restricted in this world that seemed both real and imaginary. They seemed to have become ordinary people. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.